Hello. This can be an improvement. I'm going to try and be quiet because I do now have roommates, which is a bit devastating. Oh, we got a disagreeer. I appreciate it. Doing well. How about you? What are you sending extra cuts to disagree on?
Not much, honestly. I think Palestine has the right to exist just as much as Israel. LGBTQ people are amazing. I'm not sure what you mean by feminist. There's many different brands of feminism nowadays. So can you explain that a little bit more?
I'm a gender abolitionist specifically, so I believe in the equality and evolution of gender as a concept.
I don't understand what you mean by that.
Okay. Are you a Trump supporter?
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about that. Why are you a Trump supporter?
I think Trump is a better option for the country. Number one, economically, because I think that we did a lot better during his time as president, specifically with inflation. Because quite honestly, I can't afford the things that I was able. I can't afford the things I was able to afford under his presidency.
Okay, I mean, so historically for the past 70 years, the economy has grown faster, quicker under Democrats. So why, if you're voting for the economy, why would you not vote for the Democratic candidate?
Because when I go to the store, my money goes further under Trump than it does under Biden.
Because you were not in an immediate post-recession era. But under Obama took us out of a recession as well, and he grew the economy faster than Trump did. Trump actually inherited at the very peak of an economy. We can talk about the effects of his policies, but like it would be pretty expected directly following a recession that you would have, a boom. That's how the boom bust thing works.
Yeah.
Right? So like under Bill Clinton, it was pretty good as well. The Democrats just historically, their economies actually work. It was like, and under George W. Bush, it was quite bad. So do you see how the issue with what you're describing here? Because the economy was better under Trump, not necessarily because of Trump's doing, right? I'm going to vote for Trump in again. You actually need to tie what Trump will do to the economy. And it seems pretty clear that Trump's policies are going to decimate the economy if they're put in. Like a tariff would immediately hurt people, I assume, like you, who are not the top 1%.
You're right. I am not the top 1%.
Then you would be hurt by a tariff with China. A 10% tariff with China would crush the middle class. And that's his primary economic policy right now.
Looks like I have to do some more research to do.
Yeah, that would be good.
Okay. The thing is I don't think that based on what the last thing we've seen under President Biden with the debate, I'm concerned for his ability to lead us through the next 4 years. Do you think that? I'm sorry, what?
As am I, yeah.
So, do you think that replacing him is a good option?
Yeah, I'd like to see a different Democratic candidate.
Do you have a suggestion?
I don't really care who it is, as long as they can walk and talk.
That's definitely good.
All right. Yeah, I mean, if it was like governor of Cali, that would be fine. Gretchen Whitmer would be good. Not Kamala. But yeah, I mean, Trump is just exponentially worse, right? He's like the definition of a fascist. He scapegoats immigrants and people of color for pretty much every single issue in the world that he can't solve himself. And then his solution is a strongman authoritarian autocrat, which he wants to become, right? If you look at pretty much all of his policies of weakening the legislative empowering a rigged judiciary while discrediting judiciary that disagrees with him. So, I mean, I would vote for a Stone over Trump.
Stone doesn't have very many leadership qualities.
Yeah, I don't really care. I would rather have literally nothing than Trump, who is an active fascist.
I think that's pretty strong to call him to equate him.
I don't think it's that
with
I don't think it's that strong. And also, I feel like a lot of people get caught up on the connotation there. When I mean what I literally mean is that he is a fascist. Do you know like the definition of a fascist?
Well, a good example of it was 1940s Germany.
Yes, great example of fascism was 1940s Germany. Also, 1940s Italy was fascistic.
Yeah.
And so was Portugal in the 60s was fascistic. There have been lots of fascists in this world. It's actually a well-worn ideology that is built off of racial dynamics, anti-immigration, a huge anti-immigration sentiment born off of pseudo-scientific racial, dynamics that are used to justify an autocratic far-right dictatorship that works with corporations to incorporate into the state. Like that's some really core features. Disdain for human rights, disdain for intellectualism and judiciary are categorical things of, and Trump is anti-intellectual. He does not respect institutions. He hates institutions of higher learning. He does not respect the court. He's actively called it a rigged trial. He's called all of, pretty much any judge that disagrees with him rigged. He doesn't like the current military, current institutions. While he will prop up being military, he wanted a military parade. That's very fascistic to do. And then he scapegoats immigrants for basically everything. So yeah, he looks like a fascist. If he looks like a fascist, speaks like a fascist, talks like a fascist.
Okay. I'm going to do some looking into some of these things, and maybe we'll talk again in the future.
Slay. Well, I appreciate you coming up.
Do you mind if I share a quick dad joke with you?
I do. I'll run off. Peace out, Queen.
Right.
You're welcome later. Okay, guys. Thank you so much for sending guest requests. Thank you for sending likes. Slay, slay, slay. Yeah. See ya. It's so good. Anyway, hello, Peyton.
Hey, how are you?
Well, what do you think guys supposed to disagree on?
So I'm pro LGB. I'm not pro T though. Like,
Why?
me personally, I don't think it makes sense to change your gender, and I think the people with yeah, you're good. Thank you. Sorry, I'm at work. Yeah, I don't think we need to affirm people with like a mental illness. I think we need to help fix their mental illness. So
You realize that this was like, it's very funny, like LGBT. We've moved down the acronym in the past 30 years. And in the 1970s or 1960s, you would be anti-gay, right? It doesn't make sense to want to have intercourse with another person of the same gender, right? The whole point is to have a nuclear family and have children. It's just gross. That's not what the anus is for. Right?
well,
Same stuff.
I'm pro LGB 100%.
I know. But previously you would have been like, okay, I support people where, they can wear makeup if they want, but they can't be gay. Oh, well, they can't wear makeup, but I guess that we like tomboys, right? It really is predictable. So I want to first preface that as in 20 years, it's going to be, well, I don't like, non-binary people or something. It always moves forward.
I don't
you're
like
just
that.
living in the past. But you're saying it doesn't make sense and we need to cure. Do you know the most effective treatment plan for gender dysphoria?
I don't. Or what is it?
Gender affirming care.
Okay, so
That is the treatment that has been shown to most effectively reduce mental anguish, anxiety, suicidality, and depression.
so they're kind
So
of
the cure to the mental disorder is gender affirming care. So
suppressing the symptoms.
well, the symptoms of mental illness are, and the issue is suicidality, anxiety, and depression.
It's not
If
curing
you
it.
solve suicidality, anxiety, and depression, you've solved the issue.
Well, yeah. So it's still they have these problems. Let's try to.
The problems of suicidality, anxiety, and depression.
Yeah, it is a problem.
Yes. And so when you can solve that the most with gender affirming care, that's what you do.
What if So like if I had like I had depression, you're saying like if I
Antidepressants do?
no, I grew out of it, so and
That's great for you.
I asked
But do you
the Lord
think people
to-
shouldn't take antidepressants?
that's I think that's more logical than changing your gender.
I mean, both of them solve the issue. I don't see what's illogical about it. We're dealing with an issue. If we're talking specifically gender dysphoria, right, which is distress caused by gender identity not aligning with gender assigned. That's what it is. And so how you solve that is aligning them. That's historically what's reduced the distress the most. If the issue is the distress, you solve the distress. What's illogical? I don't know if you know what illogical. What is like? What does this mean to you?
It just doesn't make sense.
What do you mean it doesn't make sense? It makes sense. There's an issue. Here's the thing that solves that issue most effectively. We want less trans people to die. I think it makes a lot of sense to try and reduce suicidality in trans people. And this has done that.
Well, so I think it's kind of just telling them like, oh yeah, so you're actually like, you know, a man or you're actually a woman. So that's kind of what gender affirming care is. And I think
Well, the point of it is to reduce suicidality, anxiety, and depression. Do you think it's a good thing to reduce suicidality, anxiety, and depression?
Well, yeah, but not by lying to
So we're
them.
doing a good thing.
So it's lying to them. It's not
I
like
think they're well aware of all the reality. Do you think any trans person doesn't know that they're trans? Do you think they're under, like, they know what they were born as. They know what their DNA says. There's no new information here. We're allowing them to present how they want to and be addressed how they want to.
well, they can dress how they want to, and they can
And they can be referred to how they want to.
I
They
mean,
can be chosen how they want to.
if it's a trans man and they like to be addressed as he him, it's like go for it. Like if I had a trans friend and they wanted to be addressed, if it was a trans man, it's he him. Like I'd try to change my he him, but I don't think you can change your gender. You can change your pronouns. I don't think you could change your.
I mean, this just becomes a linguistic thing, right? You just have an issue with the words and the way they make you feel.
well, no, the
but-
words are fine to me. It's the gender. Like I don't think you can't change your gender. You can act like another gender.
Tell the material impact of what you're saying. I'm saying, look, we should allow transitions because they reduce suicidality, anxiety, and depression. You're saying, yeah, I think that's a good thing. I think we should reduce suicidality, anxiety, and depression. But it's just kind of, I don't really like it. It's kind of illogical. Blah, blah, blah. I mean this respectfully. Tell me why I should care what you're saying. I'm saying, here's a material benefit. Less trans people die. Tell me why I should offset that material benefit.
Because they're being lied to.
Okay. Okay, let's talk about lie, right? When I lie to you, I try to make you believe information that's not true.
Right.
Right. What information are they trying to tell you that is not true? Like they know, the trans person knows what they were born as. They know their DNA, they know their genes, they know their assigned gender at birth. What information do they lose? You think they're being too corrected, right?
Well, if trans people like fully believe they're going to be if it's a trans man, they're going to say I'm a man. I'm not a
You
woman.
disagree, but I disagree that this is lying to them. Lying to them violates their consent. When I lie to you, you're like, if you were like a passenger of mine and you were like, what speed are you going? And I was like, I'm going 20 miles an hour and I'm going like 60. That's a lie because it violates your consent because it's giving like bad information. And that's obviously harmful.
Yeah.
But if like you come up to me and say, hey, I know my name is Peyton. I know I was told to be named Peyton, but could you refer to me as, I don't know, Sam? Your name on paper is not Sam, right? But there's no lie going on. Even if someone came up to you and was like, look, your name's not Sam, I'm obviously wrong, I have papers saying it's not Sam. There's no lie because we both know what's going on.
Well,
There's no incongruence in power. So when you invoke like lying, you have to invoke that incongruence of power. That's not what's going on here. That's why I don't like this argument. It's not really a lie. It's just both engaging on their terms.
well, if I say
Again,
someone
I need a material harm. Tell me the material harm that comes from this.
hold. I don't know. I mean, I'm just trying to. Maybe I'm not in the right debate. Like, I'm not trying to just draw this on the trans. I know we talk about other things. So,
But is there any material harm? Because I'm telling you a material harm for accepting what you're saying.
I think it's kind of trying to brainwash people into like, some people are just starting to believe you can change.
Oof. Eddie Cure, he went Queens. Keep on sending likes, share, slay. Oh, I love this guy. Hello.
Hi.
What do you send a guest request to disagree on?
If you're a Trump supporter, okay, yeah, I am pro-Palestine. Huh?
Why are you a Trump supporter?
I don't know. It's just how I was raised. All my family's just been on Republican, more conservative views, and I this is what I'm gonna go with. I don't really have an exact reason.
Don't you think that's like incredibly worrisome that you don't critically analyze what you believe?
No, because the country, the presidents and politics have been going back and forth between like conservative and what's the opposite? Liberal views for years, and it's not like we've fallen. We're still moving forward. Even if people think like rights are being taken away, we're still, if we're taking 2 steps forward, it's just like 1 step back. Like we're still gonna move in the more liberal, like progressive way. We're not gonna be stuck.
Would you like us to?
Huh?
Would you like us to move in a more liberal, progressive way?
I mean, yeah, for the most part, it's always good for
Vote that
all these
way.
things. Huh?
Then vote that way.
I don't need to. It's just gonna happen naturally.
But you're responsible for your vote, right?
No, listen, it doesn't matter if Republicans or Democrats to be put in. Sure, yeah, I'm responsible. It's not like we're gonna move back in time 50 years to take away like 10 rights that were thing.
Didn't we literally do that under Trump?
No. What rights were taken away?
Roe,
What?
overturning Roe v. Wade.
Oh.
Literally
What-
went back 50 years.
Was that a countrywide thing?
Yeah.
What was it? I didn't.
It removed the constitutional protection for abortion.
And then it became state-based.
Yeah, but it removed a constitutional nationwide protection, and then each state. So we did lose a federal protection, yes.
So okay. When was that case? What year was that case?
When was Roe? Roe was in
Yeah,
the
Roe.
70s.
In the 70s. Okay, we're in 2020. Yeah, I guess that was 50 years ago. So it removed.
No, yeah, 73. It was literally 50 years ago.
What was the case? Like what trimester for abortions? Like it's just like any.
Dobbs completely removed protection for abortion on a constitutional basis.
What does that mean though? Like when are abortions allowed? Just at any time during pregnancy?
Depends state by state. In some, they are not allowed in any case.
Okay.
Except arguably a mother's life, but depends how that's interpreted.
Okay. But yeah, that may
We
be
literally went back 50 years.
right.
On the Trump immunity case, went back 400 years. They literally took away a right that was given in the Magna Carta.
Right, but remember
We
when they
could
were
go through a bunch of cases that the most recent Supreme Court case drop is batshit insane.
Okay,
So,
but
yeah, that was Trump's doing.
you still said it's based on state laws, so it's not like a country ban on abortion. It's just like based like.
We lost a right to abortion under the Constitution, so we did lose a right. Yes,
Do you remember when gay marriage was made illegal?
made legal in 2015.
But remember before that it was made illegal or something like countrywide. Like
I mean,
it was illegal and it was just like domestic partnerships or something.
No, we never had federal domestic partnership laws. We had state by state domestic
No, I mean,
partnership.
wasn't it illegal at one point? Like we went backwards for a little bit, like a couple years, and then when Obama came back, then it became legal again.
I don't remember the jurisprudence on that.
It was like we were going forward, and then like it was just like
But this is obviously, we did physically go back 50 years on abortion. We lost Trump immunity. I mean, we could go through the most recent Supreme Court cases. We lost a lot of rights under this.
How long has it been so far? Has it been a year? Has it been 2 years
Since what?
since they reversed Roe versus Wade?
It's now been 3, right? When was Dobbs? 2020, so it's been 2 years.
Okay. So we had 50 years of bodily autonomy rights and 2 years of it being reversed. I think overall we're moving forward progressively. So sure, right now these past 2 years, I mean, who knows? Next year might be
I mean,
overturned.
not on a federal level.
Well,
I mean, you realize the ruling in Dobbs also threatens interracial marriage protections and gay marriage protections, right?
listen. Liberals are that's fine. Listen, whenever like the government does something,
Fine.
whenever the government does something, it may seem bad temporarily for smaller groups. For us, but us as a unit, as a whole, that's what they're doing it for. So even though like some rights
How
are
does
taken
the
away from,
Dobbs position and threatening interracial marriage protections help us as a unit?
I don't know the specifics of it, but like our country protects us, and if they're taking away rights here and there temporarily, I trust them in the long run.
Don't you think this is like the definition of a privileged take because you haven't been at the hand of like state violence that's caused by this? Have you ever been affected by any of these rulings in any way?
I mean, I'm a gay man, so like if gay marriage was made illegal, then yes, I would be affected by it. But I'm not a woman, so I guess I can't get pregnant. There's not that. But yes, if I see something affecting my rights, I would trust the country in the long run and the government to, that they're doing the right thing for everyone.
Why?
I don't
They
know.
historically haven't.
Wouldn't you
The
say the
Civil
United
Rights,
States
the
is a
Civil
bad
Rights
country?
Act only got passed because there were riots.
Okay. When riots happen, is it like a majority of the population, or is it just like
No,
small?
but they historically have worked in terms of protests. So like political action does matter.
I don't
It doesn't
think
just
that.
naturally occurred. It would have taken years and years more for us to get civil rights without the civil rights movement.
So why was Roe versus Wade randomly just decided like let's take away abortion rights from women? Like why
Well, it
would
was a long, hard, concerted effort by evangelical Christian conservatives to overturn this right. That involved getting Trump elected and nominating 3 extremely conservative Supreme Court justices, as well as in laying public support for it,
so it was
and a
religious
set of different legal decisions that led to it.
so it was religious groups that were rioting for
Not rioting. It was long-term political lobbying.
Okay, so if there's whatever lobbying or whatever rioting on both sides, then why aren't people allowed to do what they want? If the government felt like the need to change a law that affects everyone, they wouldn't do it in a way where it's like all of like our society would fall. I don't think it's that.
Not all of our society would fall, but the first to fall are the most vulnerable. And so it has historically affected the most vulnerable. Right? Like the Native American rights has been decimated within the past 70 years under Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Okay.
I don't know if you know how horrible America has been to a series of like groups of people, right? Like our foreign policy, for example, has killed literally millions of people. Why do you trust the US government? They do not make good decisions.
You don't think so?
Unequivocally, no.
You don't think the U.S. government makes better decisions than other countries?
No, 110% no. Are you kidding me?
Like
Are you,
compared to
are you
Canada,
actually out of your mind?
I don't know. I think they're doing a good job.
By what metric?
We're still.
Have you asked the Pakistanis? Have you asked the Afghanis? The Iranians? The Saudis? Like,
But
anyone in Central to South America?
but their governments are based off of religion. We're literally a secular.
Central to South America?
Okay, I mean,
Do you know why Central to South America is extraordinarily impoverished?
no.
Because of American intervention, we've consistently installed far right-wing coups in Central to South American countries.
Okay, well that's their problem. Oh shit! Hold on.
That's us, my love.
I get it, but like I'm saying, like listen, we're gonna do stuff that'll better us. Like everyone, it's like is gonna support
How
them.
did an invasion in Honduras better your life?
I don't know. I don't know the specifics of everything.
It didn't. It benefited a few corporations. It's the same reason we took Hawaii.
Really? Is that why we took Hawaii from people?
Yes.
Oh, that's crazy.
You ever heard the term banana republics?
No.
Okay. You should not vote.
I don't.
Okay.
I've never voted. I've never
Okay,
voted.
please continue that trend.
Oh, okay. I wanted to ask you one more question before I go. The last thing that you have on your background where it says you're a feminist. What is a feminist? What do you mean by that?
What I mean by I'm an intersectional Marxist feminist, so I want an end to gender depression and patriarchy intertwined with class struggle.
Oh, so you mean like the gender equality between men and women?
No, more so the dismantling of like gender depression as a whole, so gender.
I don't know what that means. What does gender depression mean?
Gender depression, so oppression via gender.
Oh, gendered oppression. Okay.
And I believe that's directly intermixed with guys stop spamming. Directly intermixed with the concept of gender as a whole.
Okay. I just wanted to know what that meant. All right. Well, it was nice talking to you. I'm gonna go.
Right. Also, guys, not voting is not the answer. Him not voting is the answer. I just want to make very clear that point. I wouldn't say everyone shouldn't vote. I said he should not vote.
Yo,
Hello, what'd you send a guest request to disagree on?
pardon?
What'd you send a guest request to disagree on?
You're pro-Palestinian.
Sure, what's up? What do you disagree with on?
I want to know why.
Because I don't like when a lot of people are dying unnecessarily and are being denied their rights institutionally and overall.
So,
Not a fan.
where are their rights being denied?
I mean, the most clear case is they have a right not to have starvation used as a weapon of war. And starvation is clearly verbatim being used as a weapon of war. Netanyahu has said as much.
Have you seen when? Who said as much?
Netanyahu.
Have you seen when the aid trucks have entered into Gaza and the I don't know, I'm not allowed to say the age group, I'll refer to them, have literally killed innocent people trying to get aid, and the age group kills them for no reason?
Have you asked the humanitarian aid workers working in Gaza who they're most afraid of?
Have you asked them?
I mean, I know what they've said. Yeah, I've read what they've said.
And so what are you saying?
Well, what they're saying is that they're the most afraid of the IDF.
And so what does that have to do with what does that have to do with them getting killed by the age group and taking the food?
Well, because this narrative is coming almost exclusively from Israel outside of Gaza.
What did you say?
But if you actually ask the aid workers within Gaza, right, from across the world, if you ask the Red Cross, if you ask the UNRWA, etc., right, who are actually working on the ground to try and get that aid to Palestinians, they are consistently saying that the IDF is the biggest threat to getting aid to Palestinians. They're actually saying institutionally IDF is making it actively impossible to get aid. You don't hear out of their mouth very much that Hamas is harming them.
You don't hear them because Hamas kills them.
The people that are outside of Gaza taking their reports.
No, you don't hear them because Hamas kills them.
Well, what I'm saying is that according to the people that are being affected, Hamas is not the issue.
Do you think that Hamas has total control of the group? They would not allow the people to outwardly speak against them.
They have total control of the UN?
They have total control of the Palestinians.
But these aren't Palestinians, these are international
the UN
aid
is
workers.
closely intertwined with the age group.
Wait, sorry, these are not Palestinians, these are international aid workers.
You are saying the people who are living inside of Gaza.
The humanitarian aid workers who were sent in internationally.
Okay.
Do you think Hamas has control of the Red Cross?
I would need to see your source on what I would need to see your source on what you're quoting here. But
do you think Hamas has control of the UN?
I think that there are a lot of people in Gaza, Hamas agents, who are a part of the UN, and it's been proven. And
It's been proven that Hamas agents are part of the UN.
I can cite you a source.
Yes, I mean the source for that.
Got you. And you can, while I'm citing mine, you can cite me one for yours.
Yeah, I mean, you were the one that said you could cite it. Let's get it up.
Yeah, and you're saying something, and I'm asking you for a source, and we can both find it.
I'm happy to. You made a claim. Let's get it out.
No,
we can talk about what Red Cross is making a statement, right? On
So there's the New York Times and there's also Fox News. I don't know if you want it, if you believe Fox News or whatever.
Just give me the headline.
Sure, you can go. IDF claims photos of how Hamas combatants inside UN compound, and then there's also details of.
So this is an IDF claim. Was this third party verified?
Yes, you can read the article.
Which third party verified it?
There's drone footage of it.
Which third party verified it?
The government activities in the territories, the COGAT, verified it. It's the
COGO. Oh, sorry, say that again. The
COGAT.
DIT.
AT. A is an apple.
The COGAT. Humanitarian aid. What is this? The Israeli government.
Yeah.
So not a third party.
It's a third party within the Israeli government.
That's not what third party means.
It's an agency within the Ministry of Defense.
So that's not what third party means. Is this third party verified?
Let's check. The Times verified the identity of 12 of the employees. So
the identity of 12 of the employees as what? What's the report on? Yeah.
Shows them wearing UN branded clothing as UNRWA employees.
Okay. Oh, UNRWA employees. Did they verify that they were H group combatants?
Yes, that's what the whole article is about.
Okay, great. What's the article title?
Details emerge on how UN workers accused of aiding and helping Hamas raids.
UN workers accused of aiding Hamas raids. Details emerge on UN workers accused. Okay, great. Has presented evidence. One is accused. Brief over the allegations. Didn't the UN do a? Okay, UNRWA employees here. I believe this was immediate. Yep. Okay, according to NPR, as per April 23rd, UNRWA concludes that Israel did not provide evidence of employees' militancy. And so the UN did an investigation of this claim directly, and this has been reported widely to be debunked propaganda on the IDF's part.
Militancy. I'm not claiming militancy. I'm claiming just aiding them through.
No, this was this direct claim. So Israel has not provided evidence of the accusation that it has significant number of employees in the UN Relief Agency for Palestinian Refugees in the Gaza Strip are members of terrorist organizations, according to the Independent Review Commission by the UN.
We're claiming different things.
The UN cleared them of this charge.
We're claiming different things here.
No. So there was a later report by the UN on this specific claim.
Okay.
And it debunked what Israel said.
Well, that didn't debunk what I had claimed.
No, it's the direct response to the evidence that Israel provided. So yours was from, let me see, yeah, yours was from the January 28th, and this was the April 24th Post report. So this was on this exact same situation, and actually it was so strong that the U.S. started funding aid into Gaza again.
Okay, your point. So what did that article say? What's it called?
This is reporting on the UN report that responds directly to this claim by Israel.
What's the title?
Report on UNRWA concludes Israel has not provided evidence of employees' militancy.
Israel. Okay, why else? So you support. That's why you support them?
No, just that claim was incorrect. That claim is a well-known fabrication by the IDF.
Well, this claims the accusation that significant number of employees. I'm claiming 12 employees. That's what
it's the exact same claim.
More than
Where you heard it. So you heard it from the IDF. This was what was reported by the New York Times, and then the UN responded directly to this claim and showed that it was untrue. Oh, and I have my quote from you, actually, from the World Central Kitchen. The World Central Kitchen is devastated to confirm that 7 members of our team have been killed in an IDF truck strike in Gaza. This is not only an attack against the World Central Kitchen, this is an attack on humanitarian organizations showing up in the most dire situations where food is being used as a weapon of war. This is unforgivable. That is a direct quote from someone working for the World Central Kitchen in Gaza, talking about the IDF directly striking one of their trucks and saying that the IDF is using food as a weapon of war. So...
okay, but that hasn't. Okay, but you say that, and then you don't claim. You don't address the claim where I'm saying that there has. You can see that in it that the Palestinians are literally killing the aid. This wasn't an air.
I'm just asking you to find me the Gaza aid worker that worries about Hamas. I'll take it seriously. Just find me the person that is doing this, because the only people I've ever heard this from are the IDF. But if it was an actual independent aid worker who's actually worried about the Hamas taking their stuff, then we can talk about it, but that's not what's happening. They're actually consistently claiming the IDF. They actually said that the attack on the World Central Kitchen was a targeted attack by the IDF to continue using food as a weapon of war.
Do you have a targeted attack? Do you have a source claiming saying it's a targeted attack with proof?
Claiming it, yeah. So as I said, the World Central Kitchen claimed this.
Claiming
the people hit it.
Doesn't mean anything.
I mean, okay. You asked for the source of the people saying it. That's what it is.
Okay, so that's not third party verified either. So then it's the same.
No, I never claimed that it was. What I'm saying is that the people on the ground are worried about the IDF and not Hamas, and the only people that say that Hamas is the reason for aid not getting in are people that don't work in aid and don't have any clue or have no motivation to get aid to the Palestinians.
You support Hamas?
No, but once again, you're lying.
How am I
or
lying?
At least you're continuing well-known Israeli lies, which is that Hamas is the reason that aid. Sorry, this is the claim that Hamas is the reason that aid is not getting in. Where somehow magically aid got in for the past 20 years. And somehow magically, people were being fed. And now somehow, no one is being fed in there, and they're hitting famine levels. But, it's suddenly Hamas's issue. Israel's actually been claiming this for the past 30 years, right? When, in fact, what they've been doing is starving the Palestinian people. So no, this isn't a new claim. It's not a new thing by the IDF. It's just consistently wrong.
So, yeah, but you're claiming a targeted attack.
No, that's tangential to the point. I was reading off what they said because you asked me for quotes. The point I was making was you talked about Hamas being the reason aid isn't getting in, and literally no one on the ground agrees with you.
You cited one source. What do you mean no one on?
You asked me for a source. So can you show me anything?
Yeah, I'll get you right now.
That isn't citing the IDF. Yeah. Thank you so much to everyone sharing the live, liking the live. TikTok doesn't like us talking about this. They're just great. If you don't already, please do go follow my Instagram. I'm probably going to start going live on there as well, because I can kind of get viewership. So please do go follow me there. Yeah.
So there's an article right here. The Fauda TV anchor reported that Hamas had attacked aid workers, stolen food and water, and caused food prices to skyrocket in the Gaza Strip to manufacture Gaza food crisis.
What's the headline? Slower.
Hamas kills aid workers to manufacture Gaza food crisis.
Aid workers to manufacture Gaza food crisis. So this is from the Jerusalem Post, immediate red flag. And who is this quoting?
Immediate red flag.
Oh, a Fatah TV anchor reports that Hamas did this. Fatah, the political enemy of Hamas?
Pardon?
Fatah, the political enemy of Hamas?
What about it?
So people with a direct political interest in delegitimating Hamas.
Well, if you read the article, you can see that there's currently an investigation from the PMW, and it's been proven right here.
Let's see.
Read it.
Order of Hamas, which said constituted a triple crime, Hamas persecution of any party who's... So once again, just to be extraordinarily clear, I asked you for a person on the ground who these are not. But let's look into this claim. If this is all you have. If this is all you have, then we'll look at this. But I asked you for a person on the ground, a humanitarian aid worker who didn't have political interest in this thing. But that's not what this is. Fatah is not on the ground in Gaza. They're not. But let's see. So it was a thing by Hamas persecution of any party who is source for distributing humanitarian aid. So this is an anchor reporting it after the occupation bomb storehouses controlled by Hamas. Let's look at this claim. Manufacturing famine. Oh. Okay, I mean, B'Tselem is claiming the exact opposite. This doesn't seem to be very well cited. Let's see. Oh, there we are. That's actually helpful to your claim. Palestinian civilians complained to the IDF that Hamas stole aid, the Jerusalem Post reported in January, alongside recordings of civilian testimonies. In one recording call, there we are. A Gazan civilian testified that Hamas murdered his cousin because he tried to seek help from UNRWA. In another conversation, the civilian said that he did not leave home because he feared. That's really good evidence for you. Yeah. I'm very happy you brought this. Let's see if this was corroborated by any major media organization. No.
What do you mean no? There's a test. He's testifying, and you want it to be corroborated, but nothing you say has to be corroborated.
No, any positive claim that I'm making can be corroborated by multiple evidences. But this didn't seem to be taken up by anyone, and it seemed to be directly contradicted by B'Tselem.
Dude, there's a direct testimony from people on the ground. And how are you going to dispute that?
I mean, there's the Jerusalem Post claiming that they're talking to Gazan civilians.
So now, since it's Jerusalem Post, you're just claiming it's like manufactured and it's a lie. Is essentially.
No, I'm just saying it would be nice. No. I'm saying any claim I'm making, I'm happy to get corroborated by multiple third-party organizations. I would expect the same from you.
Okay, well, did you try and look at it? Did you look into this? See?
I mean, I've looked at the direct claim, and B'Tselem is claiming the exact opposite. Do you know who B'Tselem is?
B'Tselem? No, I don't.
They're one of the few Israeli organizations for human rights that's actually mildly respectable. It's the human rights for the occupied territories based in Israel. So they're a human rights organization in Israel, and they're claiming the exact opposite. And actually, the World Central Kitchen is claiming the exact opposite. The CSIS is claiming the exact opposite. The Center for Strategic International Studies claiming the exact opposite. Multiple speakers from the UN
are claiming the opposite. But I cited you a source with a direct testimony.
Well, it could be, once again, I mean, not to really go there, but the direct testimony doesn't count for a whole lot when the IDF has been caught fabricating direct testimonies. So that's why we need trust in the institutions that are posting these media sources. So that's basic of media literacy.
Dude, essentially what you're saying is I can provide a source, and as long as it's not coming from Hamas, then it's going to be a lie. Because I just provided you a source with a direct testimony.
No, what I'm saying is that multiple third-party, respect of that story would be great. And what you've provided me is a source, yes, but it's directly contradicted by multiple third-party independent organizations, right? And it is by a deeply disrespectful media organization. The Jerusalem Post is not an independent, good media organization. So it's a source, yes, it counts for something, but when it's directly contradicted by a huge series of other evidence, right, then I'm going to believe the stronger evidence. You would too, right?
I think you're like being slight. I think you're being unfair here.
You understand when there are multiple contradicting evidences, right? You accept the strongest.
Is anyone disputing the fact that there is a testimony there from people on ground?
Once again, the testimony isn't like none of the claims of the Jerusalem Post are corroborated.
Let's see.
So there could be a testimony, but once again, testimonies, like the IDF has been caught faking testimonies. So this is why media respect and trust is important. So
Do you when you say you want a third party, so what do you want to see here?
do you not know what a third party uninterested like corroboration looks like?
How do you want it? You want me to cite like what's a good third party that you like?
It depends on the context. Everyone has their biases and differences, but typically multiple respected institutional sources is the ideal.
So, okay.
And especially not ones controlled by the Israeli government like the Jerusalem Post is.
Okay. Okay, so why? So it's funny. Whatever.
What's funny? I mean, they literally controlled the Jerusalem Post.
Okay. Whatever. There's like, so I can cite you this source from CNN. Do you like CNN? I feel like you'd love CNN.
I don't love CNN, but let's take it. I mean, CNN is an institutional, non-Israeli source. So let's talk about it. What CNN article is this?
Get the title here. It's like halfway through the article. Let me get up.
Also, guys, thank you so much for following me. Please follow my Instagram. It's linked to my bio. I'm like posting all my TikToks really there because I get no viewership here. Lol.
Called. It isn't down in this time. So it's called dying.
Oh. Dying for a bag of flour. Is this the one he was looking for? Dying for a bag of flour. Videos and eyewitness accounts cast doubt on Israel's timeline of deadly Gaza aid. Oh, the 27-year-old was surrounded by hundreds of other Palestinians who had gathered for aid delivery on February 29th, when Israeli soldiers accompanied the humanitarian convoy opened fire. And this seems to be, and Israel said that it was in a response to Hamas, and CNN seems to be contradicting that and suggesting that the timeline was incorrect. CNN collected testimonies and videos from 22 eyewitnesses, many of whom have traveled to other countries, who claimed that Israel fired first. Interesting. Hello.
Hello, how are you? Thank you for having me.
No problem. Appreciate you coming up. Would you send a guest request to disagree on?
For sure, you can hear me loud and clear. Okay. Not to switch topics on you, but I definitely don't want to touch the Palatine topic. I haven't been following it at all. I'm more here to ask you about feminism. So
Sure.
So can you tell me what feminism is?
So what I mean when I say feminist is that I don't believe that there should be gender-based oppression. I believe in the dismantling of the patriarchy along with all other arbitrary hierarchies.
So essentially a push towards egalitarianism?
No, just a removing of unjustified hierarchy.
Unjustified hierarchy? And you would say that patriarchy is an unjustified hierarchy?
Yes.
Okay. So the entire premise of what I want to get into, right, would be that feminism in and of itself is kind of contradictory just because of the mere nature of human beings in general. So if I can get through this, where do rights come from?
Where do rights come from? Depends what you're talking about.
Well,
There are some rights that are like necessary of logic. and there are some rights that are like, you know, productive in civil society. So I think we can try and describe them in two different ways. Rights that you have good against me, and then rights that I have good against the government. I think rights that you have good against me and vice versa are like general moral rights that come from like, depends where you're coming from. From my view, they come from like recognition of mutual existence, like derivative properties of like, you know, you are equal to me and therefore it produces blank, blank, and blank. And then there are some rights good that I have good against the government that have to do with like the constitution of the state. So why and how this state is able to exist and self-justify itself is in relation to my rights.
Would you say that rights are objectively real?
I don't think it's a terribly productive discussion.
I would just answer. I just need an answer.
I don't really care is my answer. I think you could argue that they are, but I think you could argue rights subjectively or objectively.
You think you can argue that rights are objective?
Probably.
Objectively real? Would you say that a right is as real as, let's say, a tree?
I don't really care. Could you give me a reason to care?
Yes. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because if rights don't exist absent your thoughts or absent consciousness, then the ability for you to exercise a right only comes from the ability to enforce said rights that you come up with. Right?
Isn't that equivalently true of an objectively existent right?
That's kind of what I'm getting at. So what I'm getting at is the objective truth and reality that we're in is that men are the only ones that can give rights and take them away. Men are the giver of rights. Women cannot give rights. Women cannot take away rights. So inherently, we're not equal because men can do something that women can never do.
Explain that one to me.
So again, would you agree with me if I told you that in order to exercise a right, so in order to have a right that you can actually exercise, you have to have enforcement behind the right?
You can have the right without it being enforceable. So there's a distinction there.
But my question
The
is,
important distinction. I think I have a right to something even if I don't have the ability to enforce that right.
for sure, but that's a philosophical argument. I'm getting my
It's
question.
all philosophical.
No, because my question was, can
Are we
you
not
exercise?
talking philosophically?
Oh, if you listen to my question was.
No, I heard your question. I'll answer it how I'm answering it.
Can you still demand my
It
answer?
is all
Can you still demand my
philosophical. I heard your question the first time you asked it.
I just want to make sure that we're not talking past each other. Can you just tell me what my question was?
You asked me if you can have a right. If in order to have a right that is enforceable, you have to be
No,
able
so
to
my
enforce it.
question wasn't that. My question was, can you exercise said right that you claim to have without enforcement?
What's the distinction between exercising and enforcing?
No, the distinction being, can you exercise the right versus just having it? Do you understand that? Because you're telling me you can have the right because
yes.
you philosophically.
Yeah, there is a distinction between those two things.
So
Yes.
again, my question is, can you exercise a right that you claim to have without enforcement?
No, exercising and enforcing are synonymous in this case.
For sure. So that's kind of I'm just trying to establish common ground before I can.
But that's different than having. Sorry, once again.
Yeah, I know it's
That's
different than having rights.
Shush for a second. Stop speaking for a second. Like this is how this has to be. It just was like a minute of you not stop speaking. Once again, exercising and enforcing, same thing. Having, exercising, and enforcing, different things. That's where I'm at. I answered your question. Cool, you can go on.
For sure, we're in complete agreement. We're on the same page. I was just making sure we're on the same page. We are on the same page. So because you can't exercise your right without enforcing it, and because men will always predominantly have a monopoly on violence and enforcement, then therefore a woman cannot exercise rights unless she appeals to men to get them.
Few premises there that are just wrong. Men will not always have a monopoly on violence. So many cases that they don't have a monopoly on violence. So incredibly false and ahistoric. Like matriarchies have existed throughout this world lots and lots of times. They haven't been predominant, but they've existed. They have women, like when we talk about these distinctions, especially when you bring in guns and other, violent weapons, like actually women are probably going to have much more of a monopoly on violence as like machinery gets stronger. I just disagree with it. Also, like men get old, so do women, and men are children, and so are women. Lots of people throughout different stages of life have different, abilities. So you're saying, oh, well, a patriarchy works as long as, the given man in this case is not above 60 and the woman isn't under 60. I don't really understand this concept. Lots of different people across different intersections have different abilities to use force.
Yeah, I'm working really hard to not over talk or like talk over you, so I'm gonna let you kind of get it out. So yeah, if you're done, I can continue, right?
You know how to have a conversation. You
Yeah, I
weren't
just
doing
don't
it
want to. I
before,
don't want
and
to
now
talk
you
over you.
will.
I just
You
don't
know how
want
to be respectful. Every single person that I ever correct on interrupting me does this same bullshit. It gets really, really annoying.
No, I'm
You know
sorry.
how
I
to have
really
a-
don't know if you're
You
taking
know
it
how to have a
positive.
mature conversation. Please just have it.
Okay, so carry on. Okay, moving on. Okay, so let's not focus on hypotheticals for a second. Let me pick an actual scenario that's actually happening in the world to kind of prove my point here. Let's focus on. I don't know. Would it be correct of me to say that there are countries where men do not allow women to have rights?
I don't think there's any country where that is the most descriptive fact of what's happening.
You wouldn't say that.
No.
So let's take a country like Afghanistan, for example.
Yeah.
Okay, are there rights that the women would like to exercise that they cannot exercise?
Mm-hmm.
Why can they not exercise it?
For a huge series of sociocultural, like international and political reasons.
They being?
I mean, for example, hard-fought religious beliefs that are enforced by men and women, right? Imperialism that led to such heavy impoverishment that pushed for like extremists to power, that led to undermining of minorities' rights, led to disconnection from international law that would enforce gender equality, disconnection from other powers like industry. So if they had stronger industry, gender equality tends to be better, right? Because that natural power imbalance gets weaker. So no, it's a really incredibly complicated, nuanced reason. It's not just men not allowing, because also men don't have some rights in Taliban-controlled Afghanistan, right? They don't have free speech that they would in other places. Is that because of a gender imbalance? No, it's because of a lot of complicated socio-political reasons.
Well, the reason men can take away the rights of other men is because men are the giver of rights. So therefore, men can take away rights from other men, and they can take away rights from women. So in this particular example that I gave you, with
Can they not just if they're the giver of rights, can they not just give themselves rights? What does this mean?
That's exactly what that means. Yes.
I know it's a mantra to you, but like obviously the reason some men in Afghanistan don't have rights is not because of a gender imbalance.
No, it's because there are men that don't allow those other men to have rights.
Does that have to do with them being a man, or that with them being more powerful in other ways?
Well, would you agree with the statement in general, men are stronger than women?
In some ways.
Well, physically strong. I'm referring to physical strength.
I don't think physical strength matters that much, but sure.
You don't think that physical strength matters when it comes to trying to enforce laws?
Not really, no.
So if somebody was attacking or breaking into your home and you called the police officer, you would be okay with like a 5'2", 110-pound woman showing up?
Yeah, historically they have a better shot.
What was that?
Historically, they have a better shot. Women consistently peak rifling competitions worldwide. So yeah, historically, I trust them more with a gun than a man.
Yeah, but I didn't say they needed a gun, right? They're not going to come in and just shoot.
No, you did, but they live like we live in the 21st century where people do have guns.
Yeah, for sure. But is the woman just going to show up and shoot the man?
They're a police officer. That's historically what they do in America. So
they just shoot people for no reason?
It seems that way, but that's not my point. My point is that physical violence in terms of like arm wrestling is not going to really be the metric. It's going to be how well can you use the new weapons of war effectively to subdue an enemy. And historically, actually, women are doing better at that. If we really want to talk about gender imbalance, rifling, across, like, if we go back 200 years, archery, women are better at, women do better in rifling, women achieve higher in strategy tests, they are more educated. Like, when we talk about things that would actually lead to effective warfare, women perform better.
Okay.
So this doesn't make any sense in reality.
Well, I'm trying to find a way to really, really try to zone in on what I'm trying to get you to.
You're zoning. You're not. I understand you.
Mm-hmm.
I disagree.
No,
I understand your point. It's wrong.
Here's the thing about this, right? Because you're telling me you disagree with my point, but I don't think that you understand what I'm telling you is that the sky is blue. You can't really disagree that the sky is blue. Just try to.
When men are physically stronger than women,
no,
that does not directly contribute to women relying on men for their rights always being enforced.
I'm not saying it's the only factor. That's not what I said.
Oh, okay.
I brought up one
Your whole
thing.
point doesn't make sense.
Well, I brought up one thing in my point. Okay. The
Well, if you're
that
saying that women will always be dependent on men, you said men are the giver of rights.
yes, that is a descriptive truth. That is like saying the sky is.
And women are women. Can women not give rights in any
No,
context?
not without appealing to men. No.
So what I said was correct. Is that women will always depend on men for all rights,
Yes, that's what
according
I'm saying.
to you.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Yes, and if you can actually
Exactly.
prove
So
me
I
wrong,
reiterated your argument exactly. But
you can actually
Okay.
prove me wrong. You can actually prove me wrong very easily. All you have to do, right? So let's compare Afghanistan to the United States. You say that the women in Afghanistan, let's say hypothetically, the women in Afghanistan look at the women in the United States and they say, "Man, we want the rights that they have." Right? So the way you can prove me wrong easily right now is all you have to tell me is in Afghanistan, if these women wanted said rights that the women in Malibu have, right? How would they obtain the rights without the help of a single man?
guns.
So why don't they have them right now?
Why don't they have them? For the same reason a lot of Afghanis don't have them, because they got confiscated by other people.
The guns got confiscated by other people?
Yeah,
You think
famously.
if you think that if you honestly believe that if you armed all the women in Afghanistan, that they could successfully topple the Taliban regime?
Do you know how the French Revolution started?
Enlighten me.
Women. It was a women's rebellion.
It started with the women,
Yep.
and how did it end?
How did it end?
Yeah, who ended it?
It's a good question when the French Revolution ended.
No,
It kind
not
of just
when did
petered
it
out,
end.
didn't
How
it?
did it end? How did it end? Not when did it end. How did it end?
How did it end?
Yeah,
Slowly
did men
and
end it or
brutally?
did the women end it?
It's actually genuinely hard to say because men kind of just fucked it. Men got power. Yeah.
Can you
But
give me a
women
single
started it.
example?
Women ran the revolution. Women were the reason that the king got killed.
Can you give me a single example in which a group of women toppled a regime?
The French Revolution.
They single-handedly toppled a regime.
Like, what do you mean? Like, men were involved, but women were
Okay, so
leading
that
the
doesn't
charge.
actually give me the example I asked for.
Can you give me a single time? Can you give me a single time men exclusively did anything without any support from women?
Sure, the Spartans or the Romans invading different parts of the
The
fucking.
Spartans relied on women to maintain and train their
Sure,
soldiers.
they may have had minor roles in.
Wait, sorry, men had minor roles in the French Revolution, comparatively.
Yes, but
It was a women's
I'm pretty sure the French Revolution that you're talking about, I'm pretty sure men played a significant part in the actual manpower and soldier power behind.
Not no. Not in the initial French Revolution where they actually toppled the monarchy.
Okay, elaborate.
It was by and large women leading the charge. Also, why is suddenly okay? So it has to be pure. No man was ever involved on my side, but women can have minor roles on your side. Which is, by the way, the minor roles are defending the home turf and training all the soldiers. That's the minor role you're talking
Yeah,
about.
but the distinction here being that the women being in the military is not a necessity, right? You can have a successful military without women. You cannot have a successful.
I mean, we've never
military.
tried an all women's military, and also there are all women brigades across the military that are quite successful.
So let's say we're going to war with China or Russia. You would say that it's good for America to send an army of all women.
I wouldn't want to have a gender segregated army. I wouldn't want it to be all men either.
Well, if you had to choose between all men and or all women, which one would you choose?
I would choose all women because they are historically more educated, more competent, and have better shot.
You would sense.
Probably the thing is you're not living in the reality of the world right now. We are not fighting land battles, especially not in Eastern Asia. We would send in drones. We would send in planes. We would send in machinery, right? And when we actually look at the military and their
Which were all built by
success
men,
rate,
but go on.
they were all made by men.
The technology, the cell phone towers, yes, all that shit was built by men, yes.
Do you know who designed the frequency necessary for Wi-Fi?
Tell me.
Women.
A woman. A woman did it. Sure. So a woman created something. What I'm
But
telling
the thing is all you're good at is minimizing what women do without actually recognizing them. Yeah, a woman did make this.
I'm not failing to acknowledge the role that women play. If you want, I can actually give you a definitive statement on that. I acknowledge that there are great
Okay,
women.
who has more bachelor's degrees in America?
Women?
Okay, do you think that having a bachelor's degree makes you more competent in the military?
No,
You don't really? Then why do they require it? Sorry, if it doesn't make you more competent in the military, why is it required to be an officer?
because there's a policy for it.
Why do they have that policy? Do you think the US military doesn't know how to properly run itself?
Well, somebody preferred to have a policy in place to accept only people that have bachelor's degrees.
Why do you think they have that policy? Do you think they're actively making themselves worse off by excluding strong men?
I
that
think
have
some
big
of the
arms?
greatest. I think some of the greatest armies in the history of the world didn't have bachelor's degrees. That's what I think.
Well, I'm asking. Well, bachelor's degrees didn't really exist for a lot of the greatest
Why
armies.
would it be a
in the-
prerequisite for
Well,
another war?
But I'm asking you. Do you think America's shooting itself in the foot by requiring bachelor's degree for their officers, or do you think maybe they have a good reason for that?
No, I don't. I don't think that
You don't think they have a good reason for people who are running some of the most complicated machinery in the world to understand how that machinery works?
Sure, but I don't think a bachelor's degree would be the only way to obtain that.
How else would you do that?
By learning it? I don't understand.
In what context?
In what context? By learning it.
Because name me a context where women don't succeed more in those educational backgrounds. Learning it, women by and large do better on the acceptance test to the military. They score higher. They do higher on basically every single standardized test.
Yeah, but
They do better in bachelor's, master's, PhDs. So tell me,
standard for the
wait,
PE?
sorry, I'm very confused to use your words. If you just want them to learn it, don't you think we should allow the people that learn it the best and quickest to run the machinery?
I think it should be against the law to discriminate on somebody just because they don't have a bachelor's degree.
Cool. But when we're talking about qualifications and understandings, don't you think it's better that people understand the machinery that they're using?
For sure, I don't think a
Okay,
bachelor's
great.
degree
And
is
who would it?
prerequisite for that.
Which gender historically is better at just learning?
Men.
Wrong. That's categorically untrue. Name a single benchmark of education that men do better on.
Well, here's your problem, right? You're
Name me a benchmark. Name me a benchmark. I'm actually going to challenge you on
right,
this.
I'm trying to
Name
ask
me a
the question. The
benchmark.
problem with the framing of your question.
Name me a benchmark. Give me any data.
Okay, well, specify your question again.
Name me a benchmark on education in higher learning that men do better on.
STEM.
What is it?
STEM fields.
That's not a benchmark.
So, give me an example of a benchmark. What do you mean by benchmark?
More bachelor's degrees, more master's degrees, more
Fine,
PhDs,
more
doing
bachelor's
better on the
degrees.
doing better on the
I'll give
military
you one.
acceptance
Fine,
exam,
fine.
doing better on the ACT, doing better on the SAT, getting higher GPAs on average, getting accepted into more elite colleges on average. So,
Okay. The problem. One, I'll give you the answer first, and then I'll tell you why this is a dumb
Yes.
question. The first, I'll answer like this. A benchmark, then you could say, is bachelor's degree that relates to STEM fields. How about that?
why would you relate it only to STEM fields? Also, that's not true. Women score higher in STEM fields as well.
No, there's more men that have bachelor's degrees.
There are more men that have bachelor's degree in STEM field, but women do better in them.
Women do better in STEM fields than men.
Yes.
Can you show me anything that has to do with this?
Can I show you what?
Anything,
show you proof of this?
yeah, anything that points to this, please.
Yeah.
While you look this up, I'm going to tell you why this is even a dumb question to begin with. So, what you're doing here, right, is you're trying to isolate university or college learning to be the only way that somebody can have.
No, I ask you for any higher learning.
Huh? What was that?
I ask you for any higher learning.
So, what would be other examples of higher learning?
As I said, you could take private training classes in machinery, which women do better on.
Right. So let's use this as an example. You're talking about going into the military. So me, for example, right? Let's say I was a high school dropout. Let's say I only have an 8th grade diploma, right? You're telling me I shouldn't be allowed to go into the military?
I'm not. No one said you shouldn't be allowed to. What did I actually say?
It seems to me, from what I heard, I could be mistaken. From what I heard, it seems to be that you're saying that you're required to have a bachelor's degree to be able to enter into certain parts of the military.
I mean, I was just saying that's the current policy.
Right. So what I'm telling you is, to me, that's a dumb
And
policy.
I'm just saying that makes our military stronger.
Yeah, and for some odd reason, you're using this, but yet most of what you're talking about is just men.
What do you mean?
The military is mostly men. What are you talking about?
It is mostly men.
It will always be mostly men. Will
It
never
has
be
historically been
mostly
mostly men, but the women outperform them.
That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't change the fact that
Wait,
it's
so I'm sorry, performance doesn't matter?
not when the majority of the enforcement arm.
Do you want your okay, if you were letting a person into the military, would you want a person who performs better or worse?
I would want a person who can effectively get the job done. Yeah.
Better or worse?
Better, for sure.
Okay. Historically, women perform better on
Better in
any
what?
complex technology task in the military. So would you
What?
want?
Give me
So
an
do you, I would want a thing of women if most of it is technological, and it is. So
Here, I think we're getting lost in this weed of like the intelligence level of college education and how that applies
no,
to
it's
the
not.
military.
You're just not accepting the reality.
No, what I'm
You're
trying
not
to get
getting
you to
lost.
what I'm
You're
trying
not. We're not getting lost, and you're not allowed to pivot that way. If you want to talk about something else, you're free to, right? But we're not getting lost in it. You were just wrong.
Okay, then let me talk about something else that you say I have the right to, right?
Sure. You don't have a right to. You're free to.
Okay, I'm free to whatever the semantics is. So what I'm trying to get you to understand here, right? Let's say
Can we just both take a breath? Can we just take a
this might seem unrelated, but
second breath?
I'm gonna ask a question real quick. Let's say hypothetically, there was a being, right, that had all these powers and shit. Let's say, for the lack of not using God, we'll just say a being that has unlimited powers. This being comes to you and he says, I can give you all my powers, but I can take them away whenever I want. Would you be equal to that being?
Would I be equal to that being?
Yeah.
Would I be as powerful as that being?
Would you
No.
be equal
I
to
don't know
that
what
being?
equal in this sense means.
Would you be equally powerful as that being? Would you and that being be
If I have their powers, I don't know.
Well, he can take your
Depends what you're
powers
at.
away
It
whenever he
depends the
wants.
context in which we're asking.
Here's the context. He's giving you powers. He's
No, but
asking
it
you.
depends what power in this context is in relation to.
Well, let's say it's the power
If he gave me, like, the thing is, if the power was, I don't know, like we were talking about physical power, right?
No,
And
let's
he was
say
like,
he
look,
gave you the
I'm
power
a,
to throw fire from your hands.
what?
Let's say he gave you the ability to throw fire from your hands. He told you can have these powers, right? But I can take them away whenever I want, and you can't take away mine. Are you equal to him?
As it relates to the power to throw fireballs, yes. As it relates to, like, power dynamics between you two, no, he has leverage over you.
Well, overall, are you equal to him?
Power semantically doesn't work that way.
How does it? I'm sorry. I'm trying to get. Does the word equal not mean the same?
So it's like saying, if I have 3 pears and you have 3 pears and 2 apples, are we equal?
No.
Well, in one sense you are. If all I care about is pears, then we are equal. In a place where I can only eat pears, we are equal. In a place where apples have worth or matter, and you're asking me if we're equal in fruit consumption or availability, then we're not.
Yeah, but you didn't specify any of
Equality
that
is
when you asked me if
stop
you were
speaking.
equal.
Equality is contextual, and you have to compare. Like, you have to tell me why it matters. Equal as an amorphous concept is totally useless.
Right. So when you bring up there's parts of the world that doesn't allow apples or whatever, you're adding more to the actual question. So when you first ask me, are we equal? And the only thing you've given me is that you have 3 apples, I have 3 apples, but you have pears as well. Then we are not equal. If that's all the context that I have. Now, if you specify the question and you get down to, well, what if we're just talking about apples? Then we are equal. But now you would have to change the question for me to actually answer again.
Well, that's just an assumed context. You've just assumed that what matters is how many fruits we have. You're saying that that's the implicit assumption.
Okay,
Whereas,
then
are we
that's
equal
right.
between you and I if I could lift 140 and you could lift like 80, and also I have 3 apples and you have 3 apples and 2 pears? Like, depends what matters.
Yeah,
So you have to talk. You have to tell me about, like,
I'm just really trying to
what
get an answer
matters
out
in
of you.
relation to equality. Like, equality in what sense?
Right.
In what way
I'm
do I
really
care?
just trying to get. I'm really just trying to get an answer out
You're
of you.
trying to get a soundbite. Congratulations. It's a useless exercise, and I'm pointing out that it is useless.
But
Um,
sorry.
They are different.
Right. So what I'm trying to do is get an answer out of you about whether or not, right, women would be able to exercise rights without appealing to men in any single way.
Can men exercise power without appealing to women in any single way?
Yes, they do it all the time.
Okay. How? Give me an
By
example.
force. By force.
Can they raise children without appealing to women in any single way?
No, but that's not a right. That's
I
not
mean,
a-
that is.
that's not
I mean,
exercising
well, a right to have a lineage. People actually do consider it a right.
Yeah, but see, this is the thing. We have to get now. Now we're gonna have to go into what rights you're born with. Are you really want to have this conversation? What rights do you think you're born with? Can you
I
please
don't know.
tell
We
me?
can talk about it.
Okay, tell me what rights do you think you're born with?
I think rights are relational. So I think I have a right good against you and you have a right good against me. I think that's the best way to describe them. I don't know that you're born with any rights. If I was born and then left alone completely in like the wilderness, I would have no rights.
Okay, well, let's say you're just born into a group of 10 people. What rights were you all born with?
I think that comes down to how like those 10 people treat each other and what is expected of
It
them
comes
and the
down to what
resources
those
that they
10 people
have.
decide, right?
Not really what they decide, just more of like a contextual situationship situation. So like they have the right not to be infringed upon, for example.
Why? Where is
I
that
don't know.
come
That's
from?
inherent of like self-ownership, and
How? Say
self-ownership
that
is
again?
assumed in all the actions you do.
What are you talking about? So you're born with the right of self-ownership?
That's just a true fact about you. It's not necessarily you're born with it. I don't care if you're born with it. It's just a true fact about you, at least now.
What is a true fact about you? Can you say that in a sentence so I just know what I'm responding to?
What?
Can you tell me what is the true fact about you? Said it's a true fact about you. What is that true fact? So I just want to know what I'm responding
That
to.
I'm entitled to self-ownership.
That you are entitled to self-ownership.
At least this current point in time, yeah.
So you're saying that as soon as you're born, you have the right to be entitled to self-ownership?
I don't know about immediately at the point you're born, and also don't think it's universal in all cases. I don't think it makes sense to say that to a person that's like in the middle of the woods.
Right. So at the end of the day, if you're not born with it, then it's just a concept, correct?
I don't see how if you were born with it, it wasn't a concept.
Well, if you were born with it, meaning it's absent consciousness, it's absent your mind, you don't have to even have a thought to have it. You see what I'm saying?
That doesn't mean that it's not a concept.
It exists outside conceptual. That's what I'm saying.
In what way would it exist outside of
It doesn't.
conception?
That's what I'm saying. It would have to in order for you to tell me it's an actual right that you're born with. This is what I'm telling you. Rights don't
Why?
exist because rights don't exist. They're not real. You can't hold them. They're just concepts that we think about and we write down and then we put enforcement in place to enforce those rights.
Okay. I think we're missing out on a lot of epistemic ideas here. We're missing a lot of like grounding on this concept. So like you don't have to be able to hold something for something to be like objectively existent. We can get into like Platonism if we want. I'm not a Platonist. I think you're kind of like a pseudo-Platonist. 1 + 1 = 2 is like an objectively true thing absent of cognition. Like that truth objectively exists. It doesn't mean that I like can hold it. So when you're talking about absent consciousness, that is true absent consciousness. It was true when I was born, it'll be true ad infinitum, but that doesn't mean I can hold it.
So I would compare, like you said, mathematics, right, was discovered. It exists outside of human consciousness. I would compare that to, let's say, like the laws of logic, right? Would you say that the laws of logic exist outside of human consciousness?
The laws of logic are true outside of human consciousness, yes.
Right.
Existence is a slippery slope.
Cool. And would you include human rights into that exact same category?
Human rights, I would say, are a derivative concept of like specific facts and the laws of logic.
In other
So
words,
when
can you
those
give me a
specific
right
facts are true, those laws of logic are derivative of them. The fact that I exist, have a conscious experience, and control over my body, as derivative directly of logic, maybe give me a right to maintain control over my body. But that is derivative of a set of facts and laws of logic.
So can you give me an example of a right that exists outside of consciousness?
So I don't have to cognize that I own my body to own it. That's a right that exists. It is true regardless of my cognition of it.
What does that mean? You own your body. I'm trying to get understanding what that actually means. So what do
I
you
have
mean
like
by that?
dominion over it.
You have dominion over your body, meaning you can do whatever you want.
So I have the right for it not to be infringed upon, yeah.
You have the right for it to not be infringed upon
Mhm.
at any point, or is there limitations to this?
Insofar as that doesn't infringe upon other people's equivalent
And you're
rights.
basing this on what epistemology?
I mean, everything's based on epistemology, or I mean, nothing's based on epistemology per se. Everything's based on a epistemology.
Well, Christianity is based on divine command, so I'm asking you, what would be your epistemology behind it?
Christianity is an epistemology.
Well, no, I'm saying Christian ethics, so divine command would be
Christianity is. Wait, sorry, say that again. You're coming in and out.
oh, my apologies. say divine command. So the idea of having faith behind the Ten Commandments, not just having the Ten Commandments and following them because it's your preference.
Yeah, that's an epistemology.
For sure, and this is what I'm saying. That would be an example of one. Can you give me an example of yours?
Mine looks somewhat like neo-libertarianism in what I'm describing.
Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
I mean, I think I've described it pretty directly. Why is this relevant to anything that we're talking about in any way, shape, or form?
So I'll get to it. Right. The point of this is that if you do not have right anything to actually base these entire rights on, they're just concepts. They're just ideas.
Once again, are you a Christian? Sorry, but are you a Christian?
No.
What?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Every concept of rights is just a concept. Every single one.
Yes, but what I'm trying to tell you is that because Christians, I just pick Christians as an example, but because Christians have this little thing called faith, right? Their entire moral ethics structure never changes because they have faith in God. Now, let's say
their concept of morals changes. It doesn't mean that the morals change.
Hey, I was wondering if I could tell a joke.
No, thank you. Does this guy disagree with me?
Hey, Will. Hey, Will.
Hi, what'd you send a guest request to disagree on?
So I see like you have pro-Palestine, pro-LGBT, feminist. I feel like you're kind of picking these, lumping similar kind of issues together.
I'm not
And then-
lumping them together. They're just true facts about me.
But then I feel like you're just looking
opinion.
for these social issues, and then you want to be like, I want to stand on this side, and so you're always trying to like fit everything into it.
No, I'm just talking about a set of things that I believe.
Do you think that they're kind of related though? Because for instance, pro-Palestine is like related to people that want to be oppressed kind of framework, right?
We can talk about my entire ideology if we want. I do think every type of oppressed person is interrelated, sure. That does inform my rhetoric, but what's the relevance?
Well, I just feel like people have this like
I
they
don't
like
want a
to
soliloquy. Do you have a disagreement?
yeah. So I feel like oppressed is not it's like completely not analogous to the pro-Palestine Israel conflict to view it like that.
Okay.
Do you agree?
I don't care. Like, an indictment of my entire ideology is not an indictment of this issue. I'd rather talk substantively about the set of issues that I've put forward here, rather than
Okay.
in very amorphous terms and ideology that I kind of maybe hold.
All right. So I'll say it like this then. I feel like do you agree then that the Israel-Palestine conflict is extremely complicated?
Literally every type of, so even if this was an oppressor thing, sex oppression is incredibly complicated. Race oppression is incredibly complicated. Almost every conceivable foreign policy issue that you would point to, or domestic policy issue, is incredibly complicated at some
Okay.
level. Yeah,
So I appreciate that. I feel like a lot of people
literally
make-
no one believes it's not complicated. Some people believe it's just super obvious, with the nuances being even more additive to their point.
I feel like the people that think it's super obvious don't realize that it's actually not that obvious because it's extremely
cool.
complicated.
So you're talking to me. What do you disagree on?
All right. So for instance, you can't ever look at the Palestine-Israel issue without looking at legitimate security concerns that Israel has.
I feel like I can. It may not be entirely, but you can't do it. Can you look at the apartheid South Africa issue without looking at the, white people security concerns?
You have to look at what's the dominant thing here. Maybe there's elements of that.
Can I analyze the Angolan War for Independence without looking at the French settlers' security concerns?
There's always going to be the security concerns, but for
Can I
instance,
do that? Do you think I could get useful information from that analysis?
I guess you'd have to balance it. Like, what's the most important thing in this whole conflict?
But could
And
I
would say-
have a productive analysis by looking at the Independence War of most places. Angola is a great example of this without looking at the security concerns of the white settlers.
I think
Could I do that?
you probably have to look at security concerns always.
Okay, how much, okay, why would that be beneficial? What would that tell me?
Because people are making decisions based on, people want to be safe. They don't want to have security issues, so they do want to make a decision based on their security concerns. And I feel like in the difference is,
What
for
was the
instance,
safest thing for like third generation French settlers to do during the independence of Angola? Algeria, fuck, not Angola, Algeria. What was the safest thing for them to do? And what did they end up doing?
tell me.
They ended up going back to France.
Okay.
So I don't really give a fuck about the French security concerns because they went back to France, and that turned out pretty well for them. So no, I disagree that this is how you have to always look at it. And especially you don't start there, right? I don't think that's ever the starting point. I don't think you start with, this is like, you don't start the war on terror with 9/11. I think that's incredibly like ahistorical, useless, entirely untrue, right? You can start with, the violations of people's rights, what was mass displacement, what was imperialism, etc. When was there peace, right? And that's when we can start on Israel as well. You don't start with Israel's current security concerns as if, somehow that's the humanitarian worry when there are 2 million Palestinians that have been displaced and over 100,000 injured and, over 40,000 killed. How many Israelis have died? Less than 1,000. It really, you don't start there. And I think it's an insanely skewed discussion to say you start with the Israeli security concerns as if they are not literally decimalized compared to the, thousands and thousands and thousands of people affected by this otherwise.
Israel has not just security concerns, but their security concerns are basically existentialist threat from pretty much from the opening.
Palestinians have an existential threat?
No, I don't, because they're
Bibi Netanyahu has said. Wait, sorry.
Millions are in the
Bibi
diaspora.
Netanyahu's cabinet has said that they do not want Palestinians on extended Israel, within Greater Israel. Ben Gvir, a certified terrorist, he's a convicted terrorist who's in Bibi Netanyahu's cabinet. He's the Secretary for National Security. Believes in displacement of the Palestinians from all of Gaza. He wants Israeli settlers there and Palestinians not to be there. What do you mean it's not an existential threat?
What I mean is that I view it like you put priorities in order. I'm saying the threats you put in order, that's maybe threat number 5. But for Israel, it's threat number 1 because the
What's
end
threat
goal.
number? Sorry. What's
The
threat
end
number
goal.
1 for
The reason why.
Palestinians?
The ultimate goal of the Palestinians and their allies is to replace Israel and ethnically cleanse them and to create a new state.
Who is actually displacing people? In reality, right now.
Right now, it's Israel. But the end goal is
And who
for
has
Palestine to do that.
actually displaced anyone for the past 50 years?
It's complicated, but Israel is certainly part of that.
No, literally no Israelis, except for possibly the Sinai and Gaza, have been displaced.
Israelis are displaced right now, as we speak, hundreds of thousands.
What, from northern Israel?
Yeah.
Has any Palestinians come to occupy that territory?
They would love to.
Have they?
They can't.
Within the past 50 years, have they? Have they made any territorial gains other than perhaps Gaza?
No, they haven't. But that doesn't mean they don't want to.
So no, I don't believe you that the Israelis are the ones with threat of displacement and existential threat.
So look at it
That's
like this.
That's so disgustingly, it's so disgustingly one-sided.
Well,
No,
you're
of
saying
course they're not the ones. It's not number one Israel being displaced when they have not had that threat for the past 50 years. They've been the displacers. And once again, as I've said, the current government in Israel wants to displace Palestinians from all of it, West Bank and Gaza.
And that's the point right there. You said they want to, right? So you're talking about intention,
And they're
then you also
trying to.
right. No, well, you're saying they want
And
to,
they're doing it
and
right
you're
now.
also
They're
saying they're doing it.
successful.
All right. So what I'm saying though is if you flip it and you give what they want to
If we
do,
lived in a
the
different
Palestinians,
reality,
if you flip it and what they want to do, it would be much worse.
that's,
So
I mean,
it's not for a
according
lack
to their
of
current
want. It's
statements,
not for,
that's not true.
okay, let me give you an example. From October the 7th to today, whatever it is, 200 some days, I don't know, 30,000 people unalive, right? If you gave the power to the age group to do the power to do whatever they want, how many people would be unalive right now in this many days?
Probably not as many.
Well, they did 1,000 per day. 1,000 per day would mean already 300,000 right
Right, that's
now.
an interesting number. They
They
didn't.
did
Are you saying
1,200.
1,000 civilians?
They unalived in one day 1,200. That means if they had
They
300
did
days to
unalive
do it,
700 civilians, but
okay, fine. So 700. If you multiply that by
okay.
now, it would be hundreds of thousands of unalive
Well, I
people
mean, it
now.
wasn't the major offensive every single day. That's not how war works. But also, no, Bibi Netanyahu has said that he wants a greater Israel with no two-state solution, right? Expelling Palestinians from this area.
But
At
that's
least his
not
capital.
the
Hamas
number
has
one.
not.
Okay, so I hear what you're saying. Those are all true. But what I'm saying is that those are not the main things. And the main thing for Israel
What do
is
you mean
simple.
Maine? Is it Maine just because it's a Western ally?
No, so what's the
What
number one
makes it Maine?
priority? Do
Fewer
you know
people
what's
to
the number
die.
one? Okay, what's the number one priority for Palestine? What's the number one priority for Israel?
The number one priority for Palestine is to stop dying actively right now.
No, that's not the number one priority.
I don't see what
That's
could
like
supersede
priority
it.
5. The cause is greater than that because they have a
It is
cause.
to ensure that they stop dying right now, and then for greater liberation.
So if
Why have they
people
offered multiple ceasefires?
nothing that's legitimate.
What do you mean not legitimate? They've offered all hostages back on a multiple ceasefire deal that the U.S. endorsed.
Dead or alive?
Alive. For those who
No,
have
they
it,
said
and
dead
a
or
return
alive.
for those
They
bodies that
said
have
dead or
died.
alive. They didn't say
What?
alive hostages. They said
Alive
dead or
for
alive.
those that are alive. They weren't going to kill more of them.
Okay, but they couldn't guarantee that they're giving back alive hostages.
No, they couldn't, because once again, as the hostages themselves have said, by and large, the thing they were most afraid of was IDF missiles. Hamas has unalived, I believe, like 1 or 2 hostages actively. I think. I don't even know. I don't know that they did. I know that a majority of the hostages died because of IDF violence.
How do you know
So,
that?
I mean, that's all the information we have according to the hostages and those that are within Gaza right now. So,
I didn't
and
hear
the,
that.
those
I didn't hear
the
that.
reports at least released by Hamas, but then corroborated by the hostages that have been released.
Okay. So I think what I'm saying is that in a way, if you view their primary goal is the end cause, right? Then all these things that are happening is all justified because the ends justifies the means. So if people get
This is an
unalived,
insane thing to say when you're defending Israel, who has like risked their own civilians going into the West Bank, for example, to colonize it.
but what
Insane.
I'm saying, okay,
This
so
is insane behavior.
I asked you what's the primary goal. You said to have people unalive. That's like definitely not the main cause that they
To have
have.
people stop being unalived, absolutely it is, yeah. That's why they've offered a
Okay.
ceasefire deal multiple times.
If that was true, then they would not just offer a ceasefire. They would offer if that was the number one goal, like you said, they would accept any deal that Israel would get because that would
No,
get
they
them the
wouldn't, because
goal.
for the past 20 years, people have been unalive.
And actually, you know why what you're saying absolutely makes no sense, that being the number one goal? If your number one goal for Israel Palestine for Palestine is what you just said, then they would never even do October 7th.
Why? Why? They've been killed for the past 20 years.
Okay, you're saying the number one. I asked you number one. You want to change it or you want to keep that to be the number one?
I'm saying the number one goal is to end the violence against Palestinian people,
Okay,
to stop them
so
from
if
being
the number
killed.
one, that means number one goal is to end the violence. That
Are you
means
asking me if I think October 7th was prudent towards that goal?
what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if your number one priority is to end the violence, why would you start a violence and provoke them
They didn't
to?
start the violence.
October 7th was an extremely violent act that knew that is going
They
to have
didn't
a
start the
response.
violence. That's the issue with this perspective.
October 7th guaranteed people are gonna get unalived. So if
Yeah,
you're
an
gonna do
October
an
6th guaranteed that people would be unalived. An October 5th guaranteed people would be unalived.
to a massive scale like it is now,
Dude, it's been a massive scale for the past 70 years.
nothing like this.
Absolutely, it has. Are you kidding me? Do you know how many people were expelled and killed in the Nakba in 1948?
Okay, so after Israel was after that. So say after 1950, this is for sure
No,
the
I'm not going to
most.
play this game. No. It's a stupid game. No, you
I'll
don't get
tell.
to cherry
Okay,
pick like
I'll
this.
just
No,
because I don't think
it's
you
incredibly
were
stupid.
honest about your
No.
answer. That's the problem. You said the
I'm
number
being
one.
honest about my answer. I answered your question. You're being dishonest.
Okay,
I'm not
can
going to play the game of cherry picking bullshit with you.
fine. So I'll tell you what's
It's
the number
really
one goal,
no. Stop
and you
tweaking
tell
for
me
a
if you
second.
agree with
No,
it.
no. I'm not going to do this. First of all, we both need to be able to talk back and forth. I'm not just going to be responding to you. But
Okay.
second of all, look, I don't believe October 7th was prudent to that goal. I would not have done it. But when we're talking about resistance and resistance against oppressors, extremists are bred. Do I think Hamas is representative of the Palestinian people's goals unilaterally? No, I don't think any sane person thinks that is. But the question is, where is this violence coming from? And how can we reduce it the most? You want that, right, David?
Yes.
Okay. The easiest way to end the violence is to stop the institutional violence against Palestinians. Because historically, extremist violence only increases as domestic oppression increases, right? So support for the IRA increased a lot following the 1920s in Ireland. Do you know that whole situation?
Yeah.
Okay. So historically, and then following a Thatcherite crushing down, right, in the 40s and 50s. Was she in the 70s? No, she was in the 70s. Following a Thatcherite crush down, support for the IRA also peaked and increased. During the death squads in Northern Ireland, the IRA peaked a lot, right? So violence and oppression by the more powerful state, which is unequivocally Israel. We can't live in any reality where Israel is not the more powerful state and views itself as such and knows itself as such and acts as such. When that is the reality, them ending their violent oppression is going to be the quickest way to peace, unilaterally. Do you disagree with that in reality?
I think what I was trying to say with that you kind of didn't agree with originally. My whole point is that Israel does face, always has, and always will continue to do so, an existentialist threat, not only from Palestinians but from all of the people around. So you're saying they're powerful, but it's like you have to be powerful or else you're gonna get wiped out. So your margin for error is much smaller than any other country in the world, actually.
What?
Your margin for error and making mistakes, you got the microscope on you, you got massive existentialist threat focused on you. You have to be on your game, if you will. Meaning you can't slip up, you can't make mistakes because people are gonna pounce on that, right? Because so what I'm saying is you have to be powerful.
Second. So no. I want you to engage with what's actually being talked about.
Okay.
Israel is more powerful than Palestine, yes?
Yes. Yes, they are.
Okay, great. Israel does oppress the Palestinian people even within its districts, right? Within Area A, within Area B and C that they have control over the West Bank of.
Yeah.
They do oppress the Palestinian people, yes?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Why do they have the right to do that?
Because it's because of the security concerns.
Why is giving all Jewish people a right to citizenship not a security concern, but giving Palestinians the right to citizenship a security concern?
That's because it's also the same thing that I've been saying. It's about existentialism, right? So, existentialist threat. So the Jewish state is created in order to maintain the identity of the state, to be Jewish, and to have the control that they never would have if they lived anywhere else.
So they have the right to deny the Palestinian people their indigenous homeland.
Well, I disagree that it's their indigenous. Their native homeland, maybe, but not their indigenous for sure.
I don't know if you do. There's no real strong distinction between those two words in international context.
My understanding is that indigenous is before colonialism, right? So originally, before the colonialists came,
Well,
you're
in
indigenous.
relation to certain colonizers.
Right, right.
So it's not like be all end all, but it's whichever. So
True, but the
when you're
Palestinians
indigenous, as it
are
relates to
the
Jewish
Arab colonizers,
faith.
though.
Well, so indigenous is in relation to a specific colonizer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, so like Palestinians, it depends how far you go back. This is a silly game to go back like hundreds of years. So this is what we actually do: is we look at the people that were there in relation to one colonizer, and then they're indigenous in relation to that person. And then if they colonize someone, the people prior to them were indigenous in relation to them.
Fair enough, but maybe let's just go back. I admit that they have
No,
a
it's like an
native a tie to the
incredibly-
land.
wait, go
I
back
admit
to
they have a
that.
native tie to the land. You're saying that
Do they have a right
it's-
to be there?
they have a right to be somewhere in the land,
No,
but
they
not
have a
in
right to be
Israel.
in their indigenous land. Yeah.
Sure, that could be another part of the land. It doesn't have to be in
No.
Israel, right? Why does it have to
No.
be in Israel?
Because that's their indigenous land.
It's right next to it too. Gaza could be part of the indigenous land or native land
Yeah,
as well.
Gaza is part of their indigenous land. Yes.
Part of the native land. Like you can share. If you look,
You can
mandatory
share, but that's not a partition.
mandatory Palestine became 75% Jordan. So it's like you're already fighting over. You're not concerned with Jordan having 75% of mandatory
Is
Palestine.
Jordan denying Palestinian citizenship?
Sorry.
Did Jordan expel thousands of Palestinians and deny
So
them
Jordan
citizenship?
actually, that's what they did, right? From 1948 to 1967, they were giving citizenship to the Arabs, and
So
so
they didn't
effectively they
expel
stripped.
thousands of Palestinians and deny them citizenship.
No, they didn't.
Okay.
That's don't forget that's
did
an Arab
Israel
state.
expel thousands of Palestinians and then deny them citizenship?
Like you're ignoring.
They did. Yeah, they did.
They did, but you're ignoring
Yeah, so when you
the
expel
character
someone,
of the
maybe I
Jewish
care about
state,
that
right?
a little bit more.
The character of the state is very important. It
No,
has
I
to
don't
be a
think the
Jewish
character
state.
of an ethno-state is very important. I don't think it's very important that America is white and Christian. I don't think it's very important that, Jordan maintains Arab. No, I disagree with that. I don't think it's extremely important that Saudi maintains Islam. No, I don't agree with that.
This is the only
No?
Jewish
Do
state
you
in the
actually
world.
believe in ethno-states? Do you think it's important that America maintains whiteness? Or that
In
England
this,
maintains Christianity?
not in general, but for Israel, it must maintain.
So wait, why does
the
Israel get
Jewish
a pass
character.
to be extremely racist?
Israel is the only Jewish country in the world.
Why does that give them a pass to be racist?
It's not a pass to be racist. Every
Okay,
single
then why are
country.
you allowing? So you would agree that if I said, "Look, it's important that we keep America as white," that would be a pass to be racist, yeah?
Yeah, that would.
Okay. So why are you giving a pass to Israel to be racist?
I'm not. You're saying that it's racist.
That's what it
I'm not
is.
saying-
Giving them a pass to be an ethno-state is giving them a pass to be racist. So why?
Well, why are you not considering the character of Israel as Jewish state?
the character
Because
of them as whatever
it's
race.
for
If they were
historical.
Muslim, if
Those
they were-
things. What
if
you're
they were
saying.
Buddhist, if they were Baha'i, I don't care. You don't get to maintain
so
the
here's the
character
difference.
of a society because that is racial politics.
Here's
And
the difference.
it's also founded on, this is the scary thing, is the whole we have a tie to the land, we came from blank and blank, we came from blank and blank, is similarly dubious racial politics as a lot of other horrendous ideologies. So it's founded on very similar ideologies as white supremacy and, fascism. And it's gross. And I don't think we should allow them to get away with that at all. So no, it's founded on the same ideas, it has the same consequences, and it has the same form and rhetoric. I don't know why we would give them a pass on it.
The difference between all those things you brought up is that the paramount thing there, it's about race, where here it's based on citizenship and security
Doesn't Israel
considerations.
consider Jews a race, a people, a tribe?
But those are citizenship considerations.
But don't they
and
consider Jews a race and a tribe?
yeah, so we want to maintain
Yeah,
the
they do.
character of
So
the
it is
state.
based on race.
But what if they have to become a Jewish state always? Because of the historical.
I don't think they have a right to do that. Just as I don't believe anyone has a right to maintain a Muslim state or a Christian state or a white state or a black state.
What about
No.
for their history and security reasons show that they have to do this?
I don't think this has made Jews across the country, across the world safer. I mean, historically, it's actually made them a lot less safe.
When you don't control your own destiny, others control it for you. This is
You can control
historically-
that in a liberal, secular democracy, which has been historically the strongest protector of minority rights in the world.
How would you protect the Jewish identity?
How has
And
America protected the Jewish identity within America?
You have so what I'm saying is they have to have a
Following
Jewish,
October 7th, America is the safest place in the world for Jewish people. How have we done it?
but we don't control. We don't look. It's not safe. Look at the anti-Semitism that's
I
going
mean,
on.
no. So it is the safest place in the world, and it is historically one of the safest places ever for Jewish people.
But we don't control the. We wouldn't control our destiny there.
So I'm sorry. So your worry is about being a minority.
Our worry is about not having control.
This is the same. Let me just note: this is the same worry that white supremacists have when they see immigrants coming in.
I'm
white
saying
people
you-
need to control
what-
their destiny. This is racist.
Okay, so controlling your destiny based on
By
history.
excluding people from other land based on their race is racism.
Okay, but it's a very unique role that Israel has for refugees
Not
worldwide.
unique.
It's for
So many
refugees.
people have tried to do this.
Refugees? They're not doing it. They're
People have
they're
tried to
doing
do
it on
this.
supremacy,
Settler
not on
colonialism.
refugee
Settler
basis.
colonialism is a well-worn idea.
They don't have. They're
You know
doing
what
it
China says
for.
about Tibet?
They're doing it for like racism purposes. Here, we're not doing
Israel
it
is
for
doing
racism
it for
purposes.
racism purposes. The founders of Zionism were extremely racist.
Maybe they were, but that doesn't mean
They
they're
were
they're
100%.
doing.
Bibi Netanyahu is a racist. Ben Gvir is a convicted anti-Arab terrorist.
Okay, but what I'm saying is they're not
Ben Gvir.
doing
So, do
it
you know
for
who Ben Gvir
ethnic.
is?
It's
Do
not
you know
for.
who Ben Gvir is? Do you know who Ben Gvir is?
Yeah, of course.
He's a convicted racial terrorist.
Yes, I know.
Why are you defending this country? It is ran
That's
by
one-
racists.
that's
it is
like
founded
saying-
by racists.
That's like saying one politician in the U.S. and you're going to equate
It's the
conflate.
founders. It's like Theodore Herzl was a famous racist. He is praised. Bibi
So,
Netanyahu
here's
praised
what
him.
I'm saying.
He has a
Okay, so-
street in Jerusalem.
Okay, so here's what I'm saying. You can say racist, I say not, and the whole time, or maybe I say that's not the main consideration, and I'm saying
don't
the
see
main
what else could be the
consideration is
consideration.
security
When they say, oh,
considerations. I
you're
said all
this
along,
race,
and
I'm
you're
gonna give you
ignoring it.
rights?
You're ignoring it. Like
I'm
if
ignoring
you're
what?
saying, okay, be like what you want it to be. What if that doesn't work out and they get wiped out? And what we should have listened to you, or do we control our own destiny and control our own
The
security?
thing is, I don't just care about one people's genocide. I care about every person's genocide. I don't want any group to be genocided. Okay? And from
How
my
can you ensure that?
and how can the best way I can ensure it? Hear me out.
Okay.
Is a liberal, democratic, secular state.
Of Palestine?
I don't care what it's called. A liberal, democratic, secular state. Nothing else has worked.
Nobody wants that.
Ever. Never anything else has worked. That's everything everyone has rights to. Nothing else has ever worked. Because maintaining an apartheid state breeds violence and oppression. Oppressing a certain people will only ever result in extremist terrorism. That's what we've seen. You know who said this exact same thing, David?
What? Who?
Apartheid South Africans. They said, look, they're going to wipe out all the white people in South Africa once we give them rights. Once they go in the government, white people are going to be the majority and we're going to be genocided in South Africa. Do you know what happened?
I know. I know they said
Basically,
that.
all violence
Okay, so
was
here's
stopped
okay, so
after the recognition of rights of black people.
I think what I there's a lot going on, but what I'm saying is the number one. That's why I said the number one reason, because we have to go with their number one is about racial
I don't care what their number one is.
superiority.
The apartheid South
But that's
Africans'
what it's
number
based.
one was to protect
What's
themselves.
like? There's
and maintain white
there's a
power.
list of priorities. There's a list of priorities, and you go to the top.
Who's
You don't-
setting
you
those
don't pick-
priorities?
And so you're picking like priority number 5, and you're saying that's priority number 1.
Wait, sorry,
that's
what list are you
what I.
talking
That's,
about? Who's writing this list?
well, that's what the discussion is about. Like I feel that the priorities are not how you view the priorities, and that's where we disagree.
Priorities of whom? Me?
The priorities of
What is
both the
actual
Palestinians. The Palestinians' priority is to actually this is very simple to me. The number one priority of the Israel is to be accepted. And in the land. The number
Yeah,
one
in the land.
priority in the land. And the number one priority
I have
of
an issue with
Palestine
Israel
is
being
to not
accepted in the
accept
land.
Israel. That's
Not
why.
accept Israel in the land, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. That's their number one. So all these things they do is because of this never-ending conflict.
First of all, I think that's bullshit. Why did Fatah recognize Israel?
They're good. At least they're better, but they also they're a little bit better.
Why are they still doing anything if they've now given up on their only goal?
Fatah is not in power.
I mean, they were in power in the West Bank. I think they still are technically in the West Bank. Yeah.
Okay. So
So
so your point is because Fatah did it, that's the Palestinian cause?
no, what I'm saying is that what you're reading is your point's fucking idiotic.
If you look at
Why does Fatah? Sorry, what is the point of Fatah now?
the people in power of the movement, they don't want
Fatah
that.
is in power in the West Bank.
They got some. There's some decent parties out there. Fatah is a little bit more better than.
They control the majority of the Palestinians in what would be Palestine proper.
Okay. Is that your only example though? But because I can think
we spent about 40 minutes arguing this.
Mhm.
You have no response to this specific point, so I'm going to really stick on it.
You're talking about the Fatah. Okay.
You are incredibly stupid. This is an incredibly stupid point. No, of course they don't just exist to not recognize Israel. But the issue is them recognizing Israel in the form of what it is right now involves them giving up a lot more as well. Okay? It involves them giving up historic land, allowing their, grandparents and family to not be avenged, right? Accepting the disrespect and deprival of rights for 76 years. Right. It is very important to them that Israel is not respected because of the consequences. It's not just like randomly number one, right? It's an interconnected relationship. And you bringing it down to like priorities as if it's somewhat arbitrary is insane. Of course, Israel has no right, as it exists right now, to be respected in the land.
How come though? This is what I don't get. You saying you agree with that, but then you brought up South Africa. We can bring up Germany and the Yasser regime. Nobody was saying that they don't have a right to be a Germany after. Nobody was saying they don't have a right to be South Africa and they should be taken
didn't we
over.
literally split up Germany after?
Yes.
Okay,
But-
so people did say that they didn't have a right to be Germany after.
Well, it's not about they didn't have a right to be Germany.
That is what they said,
it was
actually.
still Germany. It was just East and West
It
Germany.
wasn't.
Yeah, it was East and
It was
West
two,
Germany.
It was two separate states
East
controlled
and
by
West.
foreign powers.
East and West Germany. That's what it was called, right? So
Yeah,
here
well,
they're
no,
saying
actually, it was not East and West Germany. It was like the GDPR.
I thought it was called Eastern West Germany.
That was what was it called?
Yeah, it was called East and West Germany.
Colloquially, what was Russian Germany called? Yeah, Volga Germany ASSR.
So my point is, right now people don't
no,
even want to have East and West
the-
Israel. Like let's say it was East and West Israel, that would still be Israel, right? They don't even want that Israel to be there. So that
This is a
shows.
semantic thing. No,
Okay, so they want to replace the whole Israel with new people, Palestinian people. That's not what they wanted to do.
no, I don't want to replace the people. I have no qualms with either of the people.
No, but they wanted to do that.
No, they don't. Not right now.
So they want to. You're saying they want to get their grandfather's land back and all this. So they want to go in there and get the land. They basically want to go and get the land. That's what you're saying? How's that practically going to work out without changing the whole country into a new country, and not even
It
the
would
regime?
practically work out in both of these people living
It's-
together.
it's-
and also,
it's-
they want a right to the land.
Has it?
I don't
Like-
know. I don't know if you're picking up on the nuance between having the land back and having a right to the land. But like,
That's what you think?
We do reparations to the Native Americans, but we don't give them their land back. That's kind of the standard for like life right now.
Yeah.
And so they just want rights. They want their rights to be recognized, and then we can talk about how to fix their rights and make it up to them and make it work for everyone across the board, right? but we need to establish that they have rights in the first place, and Israel and stop violating them. And Israel won't stop doing that. So
It's due to, again, it's you always you never bring up
we can talk,
security
David,
concerns.
about how to adjudicate the rights, but that's not the beginning of the conversation. The beginning of the conversation is, do they have the rights in the first place?
Do they have rights in Israel as it is now? I don't think they
Not
have
equal rights.
rights.
No, according to the nationality law that Bibi Netanyahu's government passed, only Jews have the right to self-determination within the state of Israel.
Because of the Jewish character, you keep missing that. That's very important.
No. Sorry, David. I answered your question. So you asked a specific question. I answered a specific question. I didn't make a specific argument. I think your Jewish character argument is really fucking racist and terrifying that anyone believes it. I think it is a hallmark of fascistic ethno-states, and I think it's what led to some of the worst tragedies in the world. Right?
That is, I agree with
so I'm
that.
not
But
missing it. I think
the
it's
difference is that you keep not even turning your mind to, is that those
Once
ones.
again, I'm recognizing all your points.
Here's
So
what
am I
you're
not
missing.
turning my
You're
mind
not
to?
looking at the primary motivation behind those things.
I think they're racists. I think that's their primary motivation.
Okay, and that's where I disagree. I think they're doing this for historical and security reasons.
I don't think they're as worried about historical and secure. Why is Bibi Netanyahu, who was born in New York,
Yes.
what is he scared of? Why
Right
did
now?
he immigrate to Israel? Did he immigrate to Israel to be safe?
Yes, when I say safe, it's to preserve the Jewish people, because they've been look at their numbers throughout history. Look at their numbers throughout
So
history.
it's not
It's been going down,
so, wait,
down.
Are you telling me that Bibi Netanyahu actually believed that he would be face a Jewish G-side in America?
Not him per se, but the Jewish country, like the greater cause of the country could. Yes.
Yes, it was about a greater cause for maintaining one's race and maintaining one's racial identity.
Due to isn't there a historical precedent to have that legitimate claim, though?
Do you know who also said that? So I agree that there is horrendous historical precedent against targeting specifically Jewish people.
Yes.
But founding a nation to protect that and militarizing every single person of that race to do that has historical and horrible historical, implications. People have used very similar rhetoric
I know.
historically.
But why are you putting everything into the same category and you're not looking at the nuance to each situation
David,
could be
I'm
different?
not putting everything in the same category. I agree there is a difference.
Each
I
one
don't
is
think that
unique.
David,
Each one has a
I need
unique set of factors.
David. I need you to hear I need you to hear this one thing, because you keep telling me I'm ignoring something.
Right.
I'm not. Okay. I need you to know the difference between ignoring and disagreeing.
Okay.
I have recognized everything you're saying. I know what you're saying. I disagree with what you're saying. I agree there is a difference between rhetoric that the Yazidis used and Israel used. There's a difference between rhetoric that the South Africans used and Israel used. There's a difference between what the Confederates and neo-Nazis and white supremacists in America used and what Israel used. I know. I think there are also extremely important similarities that really worry me a lot. So
I
that's
bel-
what I'm saying. And
so-
I'm saying the similarities are
Yeah.
worthy of being distressed.
I feel that you're giving those examples, but those examples, their primary motivation is about racial or ethnic superiority. They don't have this sort of historical precedent, and that the Jewish people have. So it's how can you compare something that has unique parts that are different, but you're making it
How can
like
I compare them when they use the same language and they are both extremely racist? They also have a lot of similar parts. Can you recognize that a lot of Zionists in their founding membership, up until even now, are extraordinarily fundamentally racist?
Yeah, I could.
Okay. Do you think that that contributes to their maintenance of Israel as an ethno-state?
So some of those extreme radical rhetoric.
It's not
that
extreme
you're hearing?
radicals. It's people currently in government.
Some of them are
Also
extreme.
the founders of the ideology, Theodor Herzl and Chaim Weissman, extremely racist.
So okay, here's the
Do you
thing,
think
though.
that that contributed? Their hate
because
of Arabs? Do you think
it
that
does.
that
It does.
contributed?
It does. But here's why it doesn't make sense to me, because in 1947 they accepted to have a sovereign small Jewish land, and it was not them who didn't accept another sovereign Palestine. It was Palestine that did not accept a sovereign Palestine. So that means if they, let's say they would have accepted, then how do you know it would have been the same kind of issues that they have today?
I don't know that it would have been.
And so if
I bet,
they would have
though,
just
I would be willing to
accepted
bet
and had
that
a state,
Israel, if we accepted the partition plan,
yes,
which, by the way, Israel also fought against in the UN. Let's just note that. When it was proposed, they hated it, but when it passed, they accepted it. Let's
Right.
tell history accurately. So they did not like it. It was not their goal. They wanted a one-state Israel. That's what they said. But if I had to guess, if we're going to play this game, if I had to guess, they probably... Oh my God, you're upset that Jews don't like Jesus. Don't fucking say that. Holy shit. Blocked. Get out of my life. Israel would probably still be an apartheid state, though, living next to another Arab state, which is how they would describe it. They said that it was worrisome that Jordan was next to them. Right? It would just be an extension of what's going on now, although there would probably be less violence because you'd probably see a Pakistani-Indian situation where people just fully migrated to their two respective places, which is kind of what you saw during the Nakba, but not as effectively because people didn't move, right? And people had to be forcefully expelled. And so in reality, right, I think the partition of India and Pakistan was an atrocity. But that atrocity is still living on, but it's not as active because they've kind of solved their territorial issues, with the exception of Kashmir. So I think it would look a lot more like India and Pakistan, which is kind of a broiling, not as active, already thousands, I think millions died following the partition of India and Pakistan. So it would have been worse immediately, but it probably would have chilled out, even if it is fundamentally unjust now. Is that better? Is that worse? It's very hard to say, but it would obviously have been wrong.
right. Okay, that's a good point. So even then, it wouldn't have worked out. I feel my solution, though, to be honest, is the issue is that the Palestinians, they don't want to accept, like they don't even want to. I feel like they see, like, how did they get powerful? They started like lower than them, and then they became powerful, like you said, and then they're probably feeling like ashamed about that, and so they can never.
They've said multiple times, they've made multiple offers for two-state solutions.
I know. I read the charter, like the PLO charter in the 1960s, and I read the age group's charter. So those are the foundational principles, and they're very clear that their whole movement is to liberate Palestine from Israel. So
Wait, but have you read the PLO's updated positions, like what they actually believe? Like Camp David Accords, for example, like what they actually did in reality?
I did, yeah.
Also, fair point in the comments, have you read the Likud charter?
Yeah,
The Likud party?
well, they don't have exactly. That's a good point. So if you read those charters, they're not talking about all these things that you're saying
The
about them.
Likud party?
Their charter. About which point are you?
Do you know who
referring
the Likud party is?
to? Yeah, it's a far right party.
Yeah, they believe in fully genociding the Arabs in Israel.
Okay. Are they in power though?
I mean, Ben Gvir was convicted for being a member of the Likud party.
Do you believe that you're saying
So,
that?
sorry, just to answer that, David.
Okay.
Yes.
They're in power?
Ben Gvir was a member and still believes in Likud. Yes.
Okay. That's like saying Fatah is in power now. They have some power, but they're not the main ones in power.
I mean, Bibi Netanyahu appointed Ben Gvir, and Ben Gvir was elected, and he's a convicted terrorist because of his relationship with the Likud party. And Ben Gvir and Bibi Netanyahu have an extraordinary amount of overlap in what they believe. Yes, Likud and Likud-like are in power in Israel, yes.
Okay. I see. All right, fair enough. Well, you made me think of a few things, so I hear your position. You know, I don't know. I feel like it's so complicated. It's the thing is, again, all I could say that I think is people are viewing what they think like priority number 5 as priority number 1. I'm viewing priority that's
I
like
think
a
that's
lower
an
priority.
idiotic and simplified way to view the conflict. You've made the point.
Are there levels though? Do you think there are levels of
But I think that is
priority?
incredibly complicated and
Are there levels to the
has racism
priorities
built
of each
into it.
side
You only
though?
care about what the Israelis want.
Fine, I'll say it like this. Are there levels to each priority, if you will? And that also depends on, let's say, the Likud versus more liberal parties. So it's like everybody has somewhat different priorities. But I will say the Palestinian, most of the groups, like it's very united against Israel. But there are different priorities after, but they're united in the one goal, and that is to annihilate Israel. I don't believe that
Israel doesn't want to annihilate Israel. So no.
Israel is not united to G-side the Palestinians.
As I said, Israel, the PLO doesn't want to annihilate Israel. So no.
The PLO, no, you're right. But that's exactly why a lot of them.
Parties love.
True. One of the things, if you talk to Palestinians on this app, they will tell you that they view PLO or anybody actually that is Israel friendly or even wants to normalize relations with Israel as a traitor.
That's fine, but when you're talking about the parties, you're wrong. Okay, it seems you're kind of losing steam, so I'll let you go. But I
Thanks.
appreciate you coming up. Keep on sending likes. I would appreciate if anyone goes follow my Instagram. Love and support. Thank you. It's linked in my bio. Or go follow my YouTube, because TikTok isn't liking me, and I kind of want to have viewership when TikTok like gets banned or something. Okay. Hello.
Hello.
Hi, what'd you send it? How old are you?
I'm 28.
Great. What'd you send a guest request to disagree on?
The pro LGBT community, like, I don't have a problem with it, but the fact that they're teaching it in schools is...
Who's teaching what in schools?
So I live in New Jersey, and pre-K through 12, they have to learn about that community in schools. And I don't agree with it. Like, it's apparently a part of every curriculum that's being taught. Like, I don't care, like, who's a part of that group. My whole thing is my child in school should be learning his ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, and if you're going to put it in any curriculum, it should be K or 9 through 12.
So just immediately looking it up, according to the New Jersey State Bar Foundation, so the lawyers, New Jersey just in 2019, so 5 years ago, mandated that middle and high school,
if you look at younger
middle
grades,
and high school, include curriculum highlighting the social and political achievements of LGBTQ people, which is a good thing.
Yeah,
but,
I have
cool.
no disagreement with that. My thing is, in the county I live in, it's K through 12. So statewide,
so this
yes,
is
9
policy
through 12.
55756.
Yeah, and personally, like, I have a child, and...
Do you know the name of this policy?
Give me one moment, because I just looked it up in my district, because obviously that's the most...
Aims to help schools and district administrators take steps to create an inclusive environment in which transgender and gender nonconforming students feel safe. Seems like a good thing.
And I get it, but I also feel like my kids should not have to be learning about that at such a young age due to the fact, like...
Let's find the facts first.
Okay.
I know your opinion. Let's find the facts. Grades 5 through 12. Okay. Let's look at that.
Curriculum.
Okay, so this is the same curriculum highlighting LGBTQ people's achievements. Yeah, that's what it's doing. Contributions. So I'm finding on a state level just contributions. Provide trans people with that shit. Okay, from kindergarten through Bill S 2648. Has this gone through? guys, I'm doing work on this, and I love it. This is like what I'm doing as like some work, which is really cool. But let's see. School
So the
district shall
one,
not, as part of a course of instruction, okay. A school district shall not include, as part of a course of instruction, information on sexual orientation or gender identity for students in grades kindergarten through 6. So this bill actually makes what you're describing illegal.
yeah, and I just seen that bill you talked about was incorporated 2 years ago. But also, what rubs me the wrong way with it is if my son in kindergarten just says that he's a girl and his name is Sarah, the school legally has to keep a file on him under that name, not informing the parents.
Why does that rub you the wrong way? And also, what law is that? Could you cite me that? Could we find that together?
Hold on. I'm just saying, like, that's my county. I don't know if it's statewide, but I know in my county they legally have to do that.
Okay. Mandates at least 100 health state standards. SCIA, sexual ed for social change. It's doing pretty well in sexual ed. Must include sexual orientation, gender identity, opt-out programs.
And on the like New Jersey, or not New Jersey site, but there is a site where I did, hold on, wait, what was it called? Because I did find a website where it gives you your guidelines as a parent and what you can and cannot, like, what is not allowed. Hold on, I have to find it really quick because I sent it to a friend. But the fact that, hold on, sent to her. Attachments. What consent?
While you look for that, guys, I didn't get enough credit. This is my Kamala Harris progress flag, and I would like some lols in the chat. Thank you. I've made lots of them. I had a bit too much time on my hands.
What consent? Where is it?
Intersex Kamala Harris.
Okay, so familypolicyalliance.com. New Jersey Parental Rights in the Classroom.
Mega right-wing think tank. But that's like a huge right-wing think tank. But okay. Family Policy
Alliance.com. It's like a PDF for New Jersey. Sex ed, LGBT, sex ed, and more. New Jersey schools are required to teach lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender sexual relationships are safe and healthy options for adolescents, and teach the normalcy of same-sex families to children in kindergarten.
I cannot comprehend what you're saying. Like,
so basically, it's saying that
same-sex. I'll just pull up. I'll pull up the thing. I just
you're
won't
good.
like.
It's just
Parental
Let
rights.
me just give you background while you look for that. I am a Christian. I feel as though this should be in the hands of the parents teaching stuff like this. Sex ed overall, like, yes, like in 5th grade, I was taught about, like, women have menstrual cycles in 5th grade because it was around that time. Other than that, this was not taught in schools. I've grown up in this state all my life. I don't feel that I don't feel that it's a teacher's responsibility to teach that to my son. It should be in the hands of the parents. Like, whatever you want your child to know, and if they have questions, then go to your parents.
New Jersey LGBTQ curriculum. Okay. Oh my god, I fucking hate Family Alliance, Policy Alliance. Like, but let's just, I'll put that anger to a side. I work, like, directly opposed to them.
Oh, really?
I fucking hate them. They are such dirty little liars. Big anti. But, tag, okay. Family rights. What's the title of the PDF you're looking at?
New Jersey parental rights in the classroom.
Okay. Parental rights in the classroom. Beautiful. Okay. Teachers more likely to. Yeah. Load. They can surely afford better servers if they're gonna get Coke money. Come on, brothers. Okay. You have a right to request your child's curriculum. Opt out. Gender.
I
Are
will
requi-
say right now
They're
it
required to
says
teach gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender relationships safe and a healthy option, and teach the normality of same-sex families to children in kindergarten and up in and teach the normalcy of. But that seems to be illegal. When was this updated? When was this
21.
posted? So okay, so this is outdated because that's been made illegal. The
Okay.
2022 law that we were looking at.
Yes, but also there is, like I said, that that the school has to keep a separate record on children who don't identify as what their birth certificate says. And also, New Jersey passed a law that LGBT experiences to be taught throughout all subject matters, and there's no way to opt out because that would be considered discriminatory and a violation of law.
LGBT experiences or achievements of LGBTQ people in history?
Experiences.
Okay, what law are you talking about? LGBT experiences?
Resources for parents' sexual development from the state site. Oh, it's saying now that the page is not found. Hold on.
Probably means it was repealed.
It's probably why.
School choice. Guys.
Why is there no search button on this site?
Experience NJ education policy. Legislative mandates, frequently asked questions, history and contributions of disability and LGBTQ. It seems to just be including LGBTQ people. That's probably what they're talking about. History and contributions of individuals with disability and LGBTQ. History of disability and LGBT people included in middle and high school curriculum. That seems pretty reasonable, yeah.
Advise on curriculum inclusivity and professional development for educators. See, my whole thing is, why do we have to highlight that they're part of that community, though? Like, they were people who achieved things. Why is that important? Like,
do you think it's important to teach, like, to make sure that we have, like, achievements of Black people in our history?
Well, we have a whole month of it, and I'm not saying, like, oh, we shouldn't have that, but, like, where is it for everyone else? Like, we have an Asian
we're
American.
making it for everyone else. This is directly with Asian American and Pacific Islanders, disability and LGBT.
Yeah, and I will say,
I think that's important.
And it is important, but we don't have to necessarily highlight, oh, they're part of this community or they're part of that.
But don't you think that's important so that, like, it's not assumed that they're straight? Because, like, a lot of history is taught, like, the assumption is that they're straight. Like, the whole point that we're here is, like, you know, whenever anything is accomplished in America, we assume it's a white, straight, cis man. And so it's important to, like, counteract that assumption, because you would agree that, like, homophobia exists in this world, right?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay. And so it's important that, like, and that surely influences how your child interprets what he's taught, right? Like, he's going to assume if a man did something, he was a straight man. Yeah?
Yeah, but
like in the story that he tells himself?
But that's the thing. It shouldn't be. Why is it always looked at like that? Which is what I don't agree with. Like, why do we have to?
Before we change the response.
But also, there's the point that I don't agree with it being taught in schools unless ninth grade and up, which, okay, I get it. I understand they're at that age where they have mostly developed. They know what's going on with their bodies. They can make their own choices.
Do you think a 5th grader can understand what gay people are without, like, being taught sex ed?
a man who loves a man, a woman who loves a woman, yes, but then there's also the aspect that I am a Christian, and according to the Bible, which my son is being raised Christian, like that's not okay according to the Bible.
But the schools surely shouldn't teach that, and school policy surely shouldn't be influenced by that, right?
By
You
the
believe in
Bible?
separation of church and state?
Yeah, no, I completely believe that. That's why I'm
Okay,
sending
so
my son
surely
to a
your
Christian
religion and
school.
your religious belief should not influence how education is done.
But why should it matter that widely, and why should it be taught in schools? When I was growing up, that was never mentioned, and I
Well, when
know
you were
what
growing
everything is.
when you were growing up, also Black History Month didn't exist.
No, it did.
Oh, I don't know
We
how
had
old
a
you are,
whole month of
TBH.
it.
When my mother grew up, Black History Month didn't exist. So,
Like,
like,
I understand,
but like,
yes,
okay, wait.
it
So
is.
that I just want to talk through this because I do think like you seem like really good faith. In society, we are kind of shown only straight narratives. We're kind of only shown white narratives. We're kind of only shown non-trans people. And so therefore, when we teach a story about someone, we typically assume that they are straight. You know, a child will raise their hand, oh, what was their wife like? You know, like that type of stuff happens. And so then we think it's important that we teach accurate history, and that includes counteracting what they assume to be true.
No, I understand that. I just personally don't believe it should be in schools because, well, like I said prior, like
It not being
my
in
son's
schools
gonna be
reinforces
going
the
to a
opposite.
private school. What?
It not being in schools reinforces the opposite.
How
Do you
so?
understand
Because when
that?
I was growing up,
Because it
when I was
reinforces
growing
their
up,
own
I
presuppositions.
knew I have friends currently who are in lesbian relationships, and I'm still friends with them, but again, we were in the same grade throughout school. How's that homophobia? How is that homophobia?
Can you name an
That
important
would mean I'm scared
an
of them,
important
which I am
contribution to
not.
history that a gay person made?
What was that? I'm sorry.
Can you name an important contribution to history that a gay person made?
What's his name? Harvey Milk, I think his name was. He was a politician, first openly gay politician.
What did he do?
I honestly forget. I did learn about it in school, though. I learned about him in school. I'm not a history person.
What
I'm
did you learn
sorry.
about him other than that
I'm
he was
not a
gay?
history. Listen, I'm gonna be real. I hate history with a passion. All I know is Alexander the Great in one of the countries, not America. He went boom. He died because people literally blew him up. Like that's all I
Wow.
remember.
Okay. My point is like, okay, what if I thought that straight relationships were immoral? Do I think that history shouldn't teach that George Washington had a wife? Or that Abe Lincoln had a wife? Or who the first ladies are?
But with it being immoral, like if you were to honestly think that's immoral, again, I would go back to referencing the Bible. Because
But
in
no,
the
like
Bible,
both of us have equal standing in morality according to school curriculum, right? Because
I assume
there's
so,
no,
yes.
yeah, because there's no preference towards your morality and my morality in American education. So should we teach who the first ladies were? Should we teach
Honestly, I
that
never
Jackie
learned
Kennedy
about them
did
either.
things? Jackie Kennedy you didn't hear about, or
All
Hillary
I know
Clinton?
is that JFK was. I didn't get into like history and all that until after I graduated. But no, we barely even learned the presidents. We knew George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, and Obama till current. Like that's really
Okay, but like in terms of like what would be good education, you would agree that like I don't know actually if you know this, but like Jackie Kennedy was a really important historical figure, right?
Yeah.
Famously, she was, but like
Yeah.
she was a first lady. I feel like it's an important part of her story that she was a first lady, but that includes that they were in a straight marriage.
No, I
And I
understand
think
where
it
you're
was
coming
part
from
of.
with
I
it.
think it was a really important part of, whatever the guy's Buchanan's story, that he was probably gay. I think that makes sense. Like I think that adds a lot of information about him, and it contextualizes his argument and his like story. Sometimes
Yes.
people's sexuality is extraordinarily important to their story. It's difficult to teach history if in everyone's mind they're assuming everyone is one type of way. It shifts history in a way that is unhelpful.
For history, yes, but then you also have members of that community in science where it's like, oh, like XX means you're a boy, XY means you're a girl, or whatever. I'm sorry, I'm not a I'm computer science. Like I just graduated with a
Well,
dual
I mean, gay people
bachelor's.
made a massive contribution to computer science.
Yeah,
A gay
no, and
person made the
I'm not saying
it
anything
made
like that. I'm just saying, but to say like, oh, these chromosomes or these genetics together make you a boy, these two make you a girl, but you can identify as a helicopter today if you want. Like
But
I
let's
don't
talk
agree
about
with
what the
that.
actual reality is right now, which is what we're talking about. We're talking about historical like we're talking about like your lived reality, what you're actually worried about. I want to talk about what your child, what you're fearful for your child doing, right?
I'm not fearful for anything of my child because I'm gonna let him learn from experiences. Like, I'm not going to not love him just because of one aspect of his life. I just feel like that part should not be included in schools. And in today's society, you have teachers, I've had professors that are like, oh, you need to think this way. And I just straight up say no. And I failed the class twice because I didn't agree with my professor.
Okay. But when we're talking about like you're worried, you don't like something that the education system's doing. And we can only talk about like the reality of what they're doing. And so therefore we have to talk about like actual like laws that they're passing and actions that they're doing. And I think it's important that we make sure a concerted effort to highlight and make sure that our curriculums include gay people, because historically they have been actively expelled from the narrative, right? Like they were actively not allowed in movies. It was illegal. Like they wouldn't be published in the, from 1900s on. The first censorship in America was to stop gay people from being portrayed in movies. So
But then you have movies like
if there was active government regulation to make movies and cinema and media not include gay people, do you think maybe it's important that we put in active government regulation to counteract that negative thing until it's even?
I'm not trying to be rude, but you also have to think about the times they lived in. And I'm not saying, oh, their accomplishments weren't important. I just don't feel as though it's important to, like, I'm not saying important to be learning about it. I'm not saying that at all. I just feel like that aspect of it, like, yes, you make the assumption, oh, Abraham Lincoln, yes, he was a straight male. But you also have to think about, like, personally, what importance is there? And I know someone said, oh, you're going to raise your kid to be homophobic. No, like, I'm going to teach my kid, like, yeah, there are some relationships like that, but if you like the person, that's completely fine. You can be friends with him or her or whatever.
But it's not, like, it's important that, so your group identities shape how people see you. And that does happen. For example, and this is like, people just do build prejudices. But like, for example, Sikhs. Do you know the Sikh religion?
No.
Okay. Sikhs as a religion have a very, very long history of fighting against oppression. They're not a perfect peoples. They are not a perfect religion, whatever. But as an ideology and historically, they have fought against oppression a lot. And actively and violently and effectively. And when I see a Sikh person on the road with like a turban on, and typically they might have a handle, that colors how I see them as a person. That is not a good history. That is not a good thing to do. That is not a generally positive way that it works. But that is just how group identities work. And so when we teach history, and it is assumed that everyone is straight, everything is attributed to straight people. And so when we see a gay person, we don't have any of those positive connotations to attribute to them. That inevitably leads to mistreatment. Do you understand how that history works? Like, that is a very natural consequence, and that needs to be actively pushed against so that that type of behavior stops. We can't just like not be actively homophobic. We have to work against these very natural biases that are built into us when everyone is assumed to be straight.
I understand where you are going with this, and I'm just how I would like my son to be raised, like I would prefer him to come to me with any questions regarding that. Like, oh, what
Do
is
you
this?
know
What is that? And
significant
I'm
contributions by
completely
gay
fine.
people?
What was that?
Do you know significant? How will you do this? How will you make him know that gay people have contributed positively to history? Will you provide that education to him?
Oh yeah, because the school he's
Name
going to
one.
be going to is both. It's a hybrid program: 3 days in person, 2 days at home.
So will you? What gay history will you teach him?
Whatever his textbooks have.
So he'll come to his parents and you'll refer him to what his teachers gave him?
No, if he does have questions and regarding that, like I'm not just if he has a question like, oh, who started or who contributed, if he's interested in computer science, who contributed to it. This is who it was. This is whatever aspects of that community they're a part of. But why should that matter? If he's interested
like for
in
example,
something,
computer
then why
science is a
should it
great
matter
example.
what sexuality they were, is my
Well,
question.
use a great example, computer science. Like who developed the Enigma code, right? Which developed a lot of computer science in that time. You know the story, right?
Yeah.
It's incredibly important that he was gay, Alan Turing.
Yeah. So
Do you know why it was incredibly important that he was gay?
first gay person to really invent something within the computer science field that could be used amongst multiple codes and different aspects of developing programs.
Well, no, it was incredibly important that he was gay because he got sterilized by the American government that he helped protect and save after that.
Yeah, well, I like I said, I just graduated with a dual undergrad in computer science and information systems, and we didn't
Yeah.
learn about that.
But that's an incredibly important part of his history and thing. And when we point to him as a patriot of the British and of the Americans, it's really important to also include that the Americans and British ended up utterly destroying him and betraying him. That's an important part of history, right? When we talk about the horrible things that the Nazis did, it's an important part of history that America also had widespread eugenics programs against gay and black people and disabled people. These things matter quite a lot. It's very important that Alan Turing was a victim of it, right? When we teach, like, race and gender and sexuality contributed to history, and so when we don't actively highlight those contributions in a negative or positive way, we, number one, don't get an accurate view of history, and having an accurate view of history is really productive. But we number two, contribute to homophobia, because gay stories normalize gay people in society, and when you view someone as other than normal, you don't treat them right.
I understand what you're saying, but I don't believe that his sexuality really had, like, I don't see that as an important aspect. Like, yes, it's part of his story, but why should it be highlighted?
It ruined his life.
Everyone has stuff that they go through that, to a degree, like, doesn't
got
ruin their
forcefully
lives, but it makes their
sterilized
lives
because of it.
difficult.
Do you know what forceful
sorry?
sterilization at that time does to you? He went to jail for it.
Okay, and I believe that P3DOs should be forcefully castrated and sterilized.
Do you think it was important to Martin Luther King's story that he went to jail?
I mean, he was an African American going against basically societal standards at that time. So to a degree, yes, it is.
Do you think it's an important part of teaching MLK that he was black?
In that time, yes. And I'm going to
And now,
assume
do you think we
everyone
should
during
actively
this time
highlight the
believes
fact that he was black?
I believe that at this time, everyone highlighting, oh, they're part of this community is going to be important to them. But I don't feel as though it's important when the facts are still the facts.
And
Like,
the fact,
and
but
he
it's an
can look
important.
that up
So what do
when
we teach
he's
about?
ready, or
How
when I
how
feel
would
he
we
should
ever
be
teach
learning
about
about
MLK?
that.
How would we ever teach about MLK without mentioning that he's black?
Well, I'm not saying that part. I'm saying the fact that he went to jail. Like,
Isn't that comparable?
okay, but no, you also have to think, how is someone going to know he's black? The tone of his skin.
We don't always show pictures to everything. Like, we tell a lot of stories about a lot of people, right? And I've been this biased before. I've been told a story about a person, totally imagined them differently, and then was shown a picture, and I was like, oh, I had no clue, right? It's important to know. It's for example, I didn't know Kamala Harris was Indian. I had no clue. Did you know Kamala Harris was Indian?
No, but then again, I really don't like the Democratic Party, so I don't do my research on them.
Fair. But like it changed my view of Kamala Harris when I found out she was Indian, because that is a different cultural background than I knew of her. And it was important to the story of her contribution to society, her contribution to the law, her contribution to America. It is important. Nikki Haley being Indian as well is batshit fucking insane. These things matter. Race has affected people historically. I don't see why you don't is your argument it just doesn't matter, or that like what should it be teach? Should a teacher be able to note that someone is gay?
Yes, but I also feel as though if the child chooses, if I had a girl and she decided to identify as a boy in school, I feel as the parent I should have the right to know that. But in school, they are not allowed to tell the parents.
I mean, you haven't. I don't know that policy. We can talk about that policy separately, but I want to keep on this history thing. Do you think? Okay, so did you say a teacher should be allowed to note that a person is gay?
Yes, but I also feel like they shouldn't. The school should not keep a separate file on that child.
Let's talk about those are
informing
two
the
different.
parents.
You can recognize those are two different discussions, right?
What do you mean? If
There are two different policies. One
that they're gay and they identify as something different than what they are, the school does not have to inform the parents that that's what's going on in school, which I don't agree with at all.
we're talking past each other. So there are two different things we're talking about right now. That policy, which is not telling them that they're trans, not telling the parents that they're trans, okay? And then also including gay people in history. Two different discussions, yeah?
I said yes. Can you hear me?
Oh, I didn't hear you. Okay, cool.
Oh, you're good.
Let's finish up the history thing, and then we can move to the file. Do you think when teaching about what happened in 1930s Germany that it's important to note that most of the victims were Jewish?
I believe it's assumed that if they were in Germany, they were Jewish.
Assumed by who? Sixth grade children?
Well, you're also indicating you're also in that scenario giving the history lesson of what was going on during that time.
And so, well, you could teach it without teaching them that they were Jewish. You could do it.
You possibly could. Yes. Because they were...
Should you?
Should you? I mean, no. Because then
No,
that
of
takes...
course not. It's incredibly important to that story that they were Jewish. It's incredibly important that we teach about people's identities when telling their stories. It's not enough to just say 6 million people died. It's important to say 6 million Jews died.
I understand, and that was their religion. It's not based on what they identified as or their sexual
You realize also
orientation.
hundreds of thousands of gay people died. Gay people were also targeted in the Holocaust. Interestingly, not a history that was taught for this exact reason. It is important to say that thousands of gay people died in the or were killed in the Holocaust as well. Not just that thousands were killed. Thousands of gay people were killed. That's important history. Do you think that that's important history? And black people, and the Romani people, and disabled people, and political dissidents. Yes, everyone, I'm aware.
No,
I'm
I
sorry,
understand
I'm
what
making
you're
a
saying.
specific point.
No, I understand what you're saying, but I was also taught about things in school to where, what if you're straight, gay, homosexual, that it wasn't important. And it to me.
But isn't it incredibly important to teach that gay people were targeted in the Holocaust? I feel like
was targeted. Everyone who wasn't of every different person was targeted.
But it's important to tell them, to show them what they thought was different. right?
Yeah, but in today's society, people of that community are considered a minority and given all types of praises for it. So why should my son have to learn about it in school?
What? Say that again?
So today, the LGBT whatever community is blasted in people's faces. And you cannot say it is not, because there's a whole month
And we also have
dedicated.
like a 3 times higher suicide rate. So I don't know if it's too fucking glorious for us.
I understand what you're saying. I just still, at the end of the day, do not feel as though it's something that should be taught in schools. Like, if you want to learn more about it, like a child wants to know more about it, like, I understand, yes, bringing it up, bringing it to your child, talking to your child about it, but that's not something that should be personally displayed in schools. Like, it shouldn't, like, I'm not saying
You
it
think
can't be
interracial
taught,
marriage
but
should be
if you're
displayed
in
in
a
schools?
sexual health class, if you're in a sexual health class, that's completely fine. Bring it up in there. And then, yes, you can bring it into the aspects of history, but not in every subject in school, because
But that's not what the law said. The law said that the history of disabled and LGBTQ people should be taught in high school and middle school curriculum. They should talk about the political, economic, and social contributions of people with disabilities and gay, lesbians, transgender, and bisexual people.
hold on.
So are you okay with this law? I agree with this law. I think it's great.
I mean, you can agree with the law. I personally, again, I don't
But
feel
why
as
do you
though-
disagree with it? It's what you just said. They can talk about it in history.
Yeah, in history, but don't.
That's what this is about.
Yeah, and that's the law versus what schools in New Jersey are actually teaching. Because my fiance's
I can only
mother's
control.
very-
We can only talk about the law.
yeah, on the law aspect, yes, but what's actually being taught is from my fiance's mother, who is a school teacher. They're being forced to teach in almost every subject, which I do not agree with.
I mean, I don't know how you make math gay, but I would love to see it. I think it would kind of serve. But I don't. I don't know what that accusation would be like. But okay. Like, serve that quadratic equation. Like, I don't know. Okay. I guess if this is like hearsay, if it's like your husband's mother. I mean, my mom was a public school teacher and didn't do this, and I had a big issue with it. I was only taught abstinence only, and then, one of my friends got pregnant. Crazy times. So we all have consequences for it. I don't think your religion should ever be brought into conversations like this. But let's talk about the file thing then. You think that if your child comes to a teacher and says that they want to be called a certain thing, or they want to be change their pronouns to their teacher, you should be required to know?
Yes, I am my child's parent.
Why should you be required to know?
Because at the end of the day, I'm the one that's raising my child, not the state or the government. So I have a right to know what my child wants to be called. That's like you telling all your friends, but not your parents, that you want your name to be Adam.
Do you think what benefit does this bring if they force the teachers to tell them? What benefit does that give them? Because the only effect that will have is the child does not tell the teacher.
You mean the child doesn't tell the parent?
No, the child doesn't tell the teacher. If the law says that the teacher legally has to tell the parent.
No, they don't. That's the thing.
No. I'm saying if you want to change the law, you're making a proposition to the law, right? You're saying the law should say that I have the right to know, right?
Yeah, as a parent, I have the right to know what's
The
going
only
on with my
effect
child.
that will have is the child doesn't tell the teacher. You realize that, right?
Okay, but the child who is mine should still go to their parent who, in
They
that
should,
case,
but when we're talking about the law, let's talk about specifically one specific proposition at a time, okay?
so the
If
law
you're
states
saying they
that
should
the
be
teacher
legally
does
required to
not
do
have to
it,
tell the parent.
what?
The law states that the teacher does not have to tell the parent.
Yes,
Yes.
because if it was any other way, the child would just not tell the teacher, right? That's what would happen.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. So you have a situation where actually fewer people are able to help this child. Because the child has no trusted adult to tell. And so if this child was transgender or was gay, and for example was being bullied about it, but had very homophobic parents.
Okay, but that's where you're putting words.
I want to direct the question. I want to ask the directly question. There are two realities. One, where they're able to tell the teacher can give them help, and not tell their parents because they wouldn't tell the parents. Or
I
one
understand.
where the teacher is forced to tell the parents, and the child of their own volition does not tell the parents and endures the bullying.
Can you just let me speak for a moment?
You were interrupting me. I wanted to finish the question. That was the question.
I understand what you're saying, but you're making the assumption that I am homophobic when
No, I'm
in
not.
reality you did say when the parents are homophobic, insinuating that me as a parent is homophobic.
No,
when
I wasn't wrong. I wasn't doing that. I apologize if I made you feel that way.
Okay, because I am not. I do have friends that are
I didn't
part
say
of that
that you were.
community. I know, I understand that, but I do have friends that are part of that community, and my son does call them aunt, uncle, whatever they want to be called.
But
So
I
it's
just
not
want you to
that-
have empathy for the people that are in households that are homophobic. Or
Yes.
maybe someone would perceive you to have implicit homophobia or feel uncomfortable telling you something, whatever. So what is your answer to my question then? Do you think the world is better off if this child tells no one or has a trusted adult to tell?
So I want my son to come to me, his parent.
But if he won't anyway, right? Because that's the situation here. He could come to you. So in right now, if he wanted to identify as a woman, right? He could come to you, or he could come to the teacher. Okay?
He could.
You're taking choice and privilege away from your child. You're taking a trusted adult away from your child by not allowing them to have two separate trusted adults. And we're saying, no, look, if I'm not trusted, if I'm not the one you want to tell, you have no one. Doesn't that make children less safe?
I understand where you're going with this. I just feel as my child's parent, I can legally take him to a counselor to figure out if that's really what's going on, if there are underlying issues. See, it kind of works both ways. Yes, you, to a degree, if that were to happen, you are taking a trusted adult away from him, but you're also neglecting the parents' rights to find help for their child.
No, you're not. Because you will not know. Because in the other reality, the child will know that if the teacher has to tell them, it's the same thing as telling the parent.
No,
So if they weren't,
because
if they weren't going, one second, if they weren't going to tell you, they wouldn't tell the teacher either. So actually, what happens is they get nothing. You don't hear it, and the teacher doesn't hear it. Whereas the other option is just the teacher hears it.
But how is that right for the parents to not know when they...
The parents would know in no case.
I don't believe that personally.
That's what
feel as
happens. That's
though
what we know happens. Children are smart.
So I just would rather be a parent, know what's going on with my child, so I
But you wouldn't know in either case.
Sure. I'm just saying that because, like I mentioned earlier, it's being said in the comments that I'm still homophobic. I don't care if that's what you believe about me. Never have, never will. I don't let people's words hurt me. I've been told worse. Personally,
Look, ignore the comments. They're stupid always.
Yeah.
But I want you to really understand this though.
And I understand what you're saying.
So, but no, it's
in
like I don't
either case,
even
the
have to
parent
disagree
wouldn't
with you.
know.
I
It's
can
either the
think
teacher or nothing. But as a parent, I feel I have the right to know because then I can take my child to a counselor, someone they can talk to, someone they can trust, while still knowing about the situation.
But you won't know about it.
then I guess that's the reality of it. But I still
But you're
feel
hurting
the
your
parents have the
child.
right to know. At the end of the day, I feel as
You're
though
hurting your child. You like genuine. I want you to like just sit with me for a second. Let's talk about other parents, other situations.
other parents, other situations.
Remove yourself from this, because I don't think I'm actually talking like
If
I
my
don't think I'm
friend had a
talking. One second.
child,
No. I need to no.
if you're gonna use
Sure.
the same
No.
situation, can
I
you
need
just
you
listen
to.
for 2 seconds?
I've
2
listened to
seconds.
you.
Okay, my friend has a child. She whatever, her husband and her child. If her child were to go to school and tell the teacher, "Hey, today I'm a girl named Sally," I believe that she, as my friend, as a parent, has the right to know what's going on with her child. I still feel that way. I feel that way for any parent. Like, even if you.
Can I add a little more context there as
Sure.
like a person who's actually queer and actually had this experience with very accepting parents? What would actually happen? I know this happens. I see it happen. I went to high school in the modern day. I see it. What they would do, because they're not fucking stupid, they would go to their teacher and say, "Look, I don't feel comfortable yet telling my parents." Okay, that's the reality. If they're not telling their parents, it's because they don't feel comfortable doing it yet. Okay? But I want to be out in school. I feel uncomfortable when you call me this name. I feel uncomfortable when you call me him rather than her or whatever. Could you, a trusted adult that I trust, respect this and make me feel more comfortable? Okay? Let's take, like, I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying. Like, I disagree, but like, right now I'm not. I just need you to understand, like, very logically, there is no benefit to making that teacher a mandatory reporter to the parent for sexuality. Because if that teenager or that child or whatever knew that the parent would say it, they would never come up to the teacher in the first place. So do you understand how this, like, in what situation would this inform the parent more? Do you see how it actually, like, has no impact on the information transfer? Either the teacher knows or no one knows.
I understand what you're saying, and yes, that works in situations, but if the child's in kindergarten or at a young age, like, I'm sorry, I feel parents should be informed, and especially in Washington state, like the state of Washington, because they legally are able to, school officials are legally able to provide your child with narcotics for like antidepressants and all this other stuff, which personally, again, I don't agree with. But
So now
that's
you're really extending this.
yeah, no, I
That's-
understand. Yes, I'm extending because overall I do not agree with it.
No, I
Because-
know, but so I need you to, like, this is maybe an issue I'm having. This isn't a personal attack.
No,
preface
I
it.
completely.
But it's an
You're
issue
having a
I'm
civil
having with
conversation.
talking to you is we're not actually talking about the issue you're heading up. We're talking about a grand plan of LGBTQ people affecting all of children and schools taking control away from you. It's much more structural and emotional than we are talking about an actual policy. Because when I talk about the actual direct policy, we're actually directly talking about, right? The critique you've made, and you expand it and you say, well, okay, maybe this is not actually the issue, but like providing medicine is a really big issue. Well, let's talk about one thing.
Overall, I
And
just
then,
don't
but I
feel
know
as
you
though it
overall
should
disagree,
be
but I'm
taught
aware.
in
I'm
schools.
so aware of where you're coming from. I'm so incredibly aware of where you're coming from. I promise you, I have talked to probably over 100 people that believe almost exactly the same thing as you. I've done this for now 4 years. I've talked to so many Christian mothers. Trust me on this. I know where you're coming from. And that's why I'm trying to like kind of steer the conversation to be really productive. Maybe in kindergarten, when a kindergartner comes up and says, "I'm Sally," maybe they don't think about the consequences. But in that case, they probably don't actually like identify in a certain way. They don't actually have this like complicated concept that a parent would need to care about, right? Like they wouldn't have these ideas. They wouldn't be trans. They would be like messing around. But if they had that concept of being trans, they probably also have a concept of transphobia. And therefore, they probably have a concept of not being comfortable with their parents as well. And so let's talk about reality. This probably happens 3rd, 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade on, right? They're pretty developed people. They probably know how people react to people that act that way and have uncomfort with their parents. And so the vast majority of times this would happen and you're taking away a safe adult from your child. And that's really, really worrisome. So we can agree, yeah, if it's like a really young child that doesn't really understand what they're doing anyway, maybe, but then I don't see why it would be special. It's just a child messing around. They don't need therapy, they're just like messing around. But the second it does become serious, then we actually have that issue of, well, they know how serious it is. They're not stupid. So it seems like actually very few of these situations would happen. Yeah, do you see where I'm coming from that?
I understand where you're coming from. Personally, as a Christian parent, like I'd mentioned previously, I don't agree with it, hence why my son is going to a Christian school. So that's literally point blank
But the
end
law
of
you're
that.
talking about would, if you changed it, would take away a safe adult from your child. Really worrisome. And also,
And
not
that is
everyone is like you,
completely your
right?
decision to consider that worrisome. I, as a
It's
parent,
really
have the
worrisome when
right
you
to.
take a safe adult from a child. Unequivocally,
How am I
universally.
taking a safe adult from my child when my child's still going to be in school?
Because they can't trust that safe adult with the information that they want to share with them.
How so?
Like I said, if they were getting bullied because they were gay, because people found out, or one of their friends found out and told other people and they were being bullied, but it was still private, so their parents didn't know. They were being bullied. And they didn't feel comfortable telling their children. Maybe their house isn't a safe environment, right? Maybe their parents are homophobic, right? Like, we're not just talking about you. You don't like a law. Laws affect everyone. And there are lots of homophobes in this world, yeah? Like, there are. Yeah?
There are a lot of, yes, but
Yeah. But so what, and so if they couldn't go to their parents and say, look, I'm being bullied, could you talk to the school to stop it? But they also couldn't go to their teachers because their teachers would have to tell their parents. That makes life difficult and it makes them less safe. Right? You need a safe adult to tell. That's what we want children to do, right?
yeah, but there's also the aspect of if you're having issues. Okay, personally, I wouldn't talk to my 2-year-old about sexual orientation, nor would it be brought up until he's probably going through the stages of becoming a man.
No, but like, let's talk about it like, let's say 9th grade. Do you think if a 9th grader came up to their teacher and said, hey, I want to be a he or a she, do you
I
think the
feel as though
parents
the
should
parents
be?
should know at that point.
Okay, yeah, but so we're talking about a 9th grader who gets it.
Yeah.
And what if they grew up seeing their parents be like, oh yeah, these trans people, I hate them, right? I, did blank, blank, and blank. I don't support them. I think, gender's gender, whatever. They knew they wouldn't be accepted. And then they started getting bullied for being trans. Would you at least agree with me, like, if the change in line that you wanted to, in law, that you wanted to pass passed, that trans child would be less safe?
So if my child was getting bullied in the 9th grade for being trans, I as a parent would want to know because I
What if
stick up
you
for my
were not a safe person for trans people?
again.
Once again, this isn't about you. I'm just saying, like,
I know,
this
in
hypothetical,
general,
it's a trans person. What
yeah,
if the
it's your
parent
point
is-
of view versus at this point it's your point of view versus mine. I accept my
No,
child
it's
for
not. It's
whatever
not. It's not.
he,
It's like
she is.
we can agree on this. If the parents are transphobic and like do not like trans people and will mistreat their child if they find out they are trans,
Then I feel as though the parent should change. But at the end
What-
of the
what
day,
should the
that's
law
still
do?
my child.
okay, but you would agree in this circumstance. You can think it's right. You can think it's like at the end of the day, it's their child. They have a right. But you would agree in this circumstance, that child is less safe if the teacher is not allowed to help without telling the parents.
No, because if my child's
Not
being
your son, that child, that person.
Okay, if another child is being bullied for their sexual orientation or whatever, the parents should know, because
What if-
how is it going to get changed at home? And if the parents are homophobic, whatever, transphobic, whatever you want to call it, then that child to a degree should be taken away. But I don't feel a child should be abused because of what they identify as. I never said I would abuse my child.
No, I'm
for
not
all
saying
you
they
in the
should be. I'm
comments
just
that
saying
are
this is the reality that people live in.
and
Right?
that's where parents kind of have to change, because yes, I listen
But
again.
what
I
should the
am a
laws-
Christian.
No, in the now, in the here, in the now and here, in the living and growing. Because my parents have changed, right? My parents weren't the best like a while ago for like other things. They were great parents, by the way. I'm just saying is this an example, but they had issues. They'll admit this.
Everyone
When
has
my
issues.
first child was born, right? And then it took them 26 years to get better, right? People change slowly. Childhood is from when you remember, it goes from like 6 to 18, it's 12 years, maybe, if you're lucky. People don't change that much in 12 years, and they certainly don't change in the 4 years of high school that you would like have all this stuff going on. So the answer isn't parents should change. So in the here and now, I just need you to reckon like it's a logical conclusion. You can believe what you believe about parents' rights, right? It isn't contesting what you believe. But I just need you to recognize the policy you're suggesting in the here and now makes that trans person who has unaccepting parents and is being bullied in school, it makes them less safe.
And I'm sorry children feel that way. I'm
No,
listen.
do you recognize that it makes them less safe in that situation?
Sure, but that's at the end of the day, every parent has the right to know what's going on with their child. At the end of the day,
that's fine. You are recognizing that this makes children less safe.
at the end of the day, parents still have a right to know what's going on with
I
their
know
child.
you put
No
you
matter
put parents' rights over children's safety. I don't.
I'm sorry you
I
feel
believe
that
children
way.
come first. You think parents come first. I think that's gross. I put children's safety above basically everything.
And I put my child's safety above everything.
You put your control over your child above everything.
No, I do not put
the
my
safety
control,
of
because if
children
I were
above
putting my
everything.
control, I would be homeschooling my child, only picking certain curriculums, when in reality my child is going to a hybrid program, both in person and homeschooling.
As a policy, choosing parents' rights over children's safety is about control.
At the end of the day, my child will still be learning what he needs to know while in school
Fine.
to get
You are putting
the
trans people at risk if
education
you
he
push the
deserves.
way you're pushing. This is why I fucking hate the Family Foundation. I personally don't believe in parents' rights, point blank, period. Right?
Good for you. That is completely your choice.
Yeah, but
Me
you are
as a
putting
parent,
children
and
at risk.
that's probably because you aren't a parent. You don't know what it's like. All the securities
Yeah,
parents have
because
to
I'm a
have.
queer person who's been bullied and know how that hurts. Yeah, because I'm a queer
I'm
person who's
sorry
been
that
scarred
you're
at for being
having
gay, and I know the danger of being out in an unaccepting place is.
And I'm
Were
sorry
you?
you had
Did
to
you
go
know this,
through
Harm?
that, but
Do
life's
you
a
know
bitch
this?
and then you die.
I'm intriguing. I'm intrigued. You're willing to sacrifice our queer people's safety for your parents' rights, which is a nonsense thing.
is
Parents'
it
rights is not even a fake
sacrificing
thing. It's never
people
existed
part
in
of
the
that
history of America.
community's
It's
safety?
insane. It's a far
How is that taking away your safety when
no, we both agreed
reality
that
of
the
the
policy you're
situation
pushing
is I still feel it's the parents'
both
right to
agreed.
know what's going on with their child. Like,
We both
yes, I'm
agreed.
sorry I'm taking away a safe person, but
We both agreed that your policy makes trans people less safe.
how's
We both agreed on this. I'm not going to describe it again.
long story short, parents should be open and accepting of their children, have normal conversations with them, not be a friend to them, but a parent saying, yes, I understand where you're coming from with X, Y, and or Z,
All I'm
which
saying
I am going
is
to
you
be
are
to my
saying-
child.
You are saying that trans people's safety, queer people's safety, is less important than a parent's right to know. I disagree. But I just want you to understand squarely what your ideology sacrifices. It does sacrifice many, many, many queer people's safety. And it has. This has caused abuse when it's been enforced. I believe it's enforced in Florida, the forced outing. I believe it's enforced in Tennessee. And there have been horrible stories out of here. I would have felt deeply uncomfortable if the teachers I had told that I was gay, I had talked to them, I'd written essays expressively in English class about being gay before I was out to my parents. I have extremely accepting parents, thank God. But still, I would have been felt violated. It would have made my life worse. I think that's a lived experience, like, you don't have to empathize with, but maybe you do. I don't understand it. I don't understand how you put children's safety below these rights. It really, really
I'm
does
not
that for
putting
me.
children's safety.
You
Okay,
admitted
if
your policy
anything,
makes
if
children less safe.
anything, there should be a set date for a meeting to where the child can tell, or the child can tell the parent in front of a counselor at the school or even in front of that teacher. But I don't feel as though the school has a right to keep it from the parent at the end of the day. Why can't they institute stuff like that? Oh, hey, I'm afraid to the
Do you
child.
think
I'm
that
afraid to tell my
sorry,
parents about
do you know
this.
how
So
many
why can't
abusive
we
parents have
have a
got
sit
away
down
with an
meeting so
intervention?
I can tell them with another adult present?
I don't know if you understand how, like, abuse works. Because, like, many abusive parents have gotten away with social security or social services coming in and doing an intervention and seeing how they treat their children. And they didn't look abusive. And then when they left, they were. Because having one intervention where they firstly come out is insanely non-preventative.
Still, at the end of the day, my child's
You can say
gonna
at the end of the
learn.
day, it doesn't absolve you of the harm you're pushing. You have to
I'm
own the
not
harm and
pushing,
say,
but
look,
here's the
my religion
difference.
is...
Here's the
You are.
difference.
No,
My
you
points of
admitted,
view aren't
you
going to get
admitted
brought
you
into
were.
law. That's the thing. My points of view are not going to be brought to law. My child's going to know the Bible. He's going to learn the Bible. He's going to a Christian school where homophobia is not accepted. Like, it's not okay. Man shall not lie with man. And at the end of the day, I believe the Bible. If my son were to come up to me and say, "Hey, mom, I think I'm this, that, or the third," okay, let's have a conversation.
Sorry,
Let's
doesn't the
get you
Bible
into
also say that women
counseling.
should have a meek and quiet spirit?
Yeah. Depends on what part of the Bible that's in, because I honestly don't remember off the top of my head. Because if it's in the Old Testament, if it's in the
I'm
Old
sorry, you're not being
Testament, then that's
very meek and quiet
completely
right now.
obliterated due to the fact that that Jesus came and saved us all from our sins.
I'm sorry,
So
doesn't it say
basically
for
the
women
first-
not to preach in the presence of men?
I'm not preaching.
You
I
are
don't believe
preaching,
women
Wayne.
should be preaching.
I don't believe you have a meek and quiet spirit right now.
That's completely
You know
fine.
what they
That's
do to
completely
witches in
your
the Bible?
decision, but I'm also a parent
You know what they do
that's
to
going to
witches in
stand
the
up for her
Bible?
son and what she feels he should be learning.
Also, you
There's-
didn't know the meek and quiet spirit verse, but you're saying you're a Christian? Isn't this most
No,
like,
I said I didn't know what
important-
part of the Bible that's in, so
believe
let's
it's in
get
Mark.
that straight. I said I did not know if it's in the Old Testament, then
It's in the New
Jesus-
Testament, love. It's in Peter.
Peter, do you have the verse?
Meek and quiet spirit, women. Let me get it up.
Galatians. First or second Peter?
1 Peter 3:4.
4. Because you also have to look at the context around it. First
But let
Peter.
it be hidden. Let it be the hidden man of the heart who is not corruptible, even the ornament of a meek and quiet spirit, which is the sight of God, is of great price. Which in the sight of God is of great price.
Yeah, that's to your husbands. Likewise, ye wives, be in subjection to your
In
own
relation,
husbands.
sorry, the meek and quiet wives should have meek and quiet spirits. Husbands should be strength. It doesn't say explicitly in the context of between the two. But 1 Corinthians.
Peter is not condemning a woman for dressing nicely, but he makes the point that women should not make their looks the sum total of their worth. He contrasts those who focus on external beauty with those who focus on inner attitude. This part of the
Women should remain silent in the churches. Corinthians 14:34-35. They are not allowed to speak, but must be in submission, as the law says.
unto their husbands.
No, this is in the churches. Are you silent in churches?
Am I silent in church? Yeah, because I listen.
But are all women silent in churches? Are you in submission? Are you not allowed to speak?
Am I in submission at church? Yes, because I'm submitting unto God.
Are you submitting? No. Like, okay. Timothy, I do not permit a woman to teach or assume authority over a man. I fear I am a man.
Oh, I'm not trying to be rude, but you do identify as a man?
I do.
Okay. So,
Why are you teaching me and assuming authority?
I'm not teaching you. I'm just saying how I'm going to raise my child. At the end of the day, he's going to a Christian school. I don't believe this
But are
stuff
you
should be taught
quiet?
in schools, and that's my opinion.
But are you quiet? I do not permit a woman to teach or assume authority over a man. She must be quiet.
Do you not like having conversations with women who have opposing viewpoints?
I don't like speaking to hypocrites.
I'm not a hypocrite at the end of the
But
day.
you are not quiet, and you claim to be a Christian. And you are a woman, right?
A woman. Listen, at the end of the day, I am going to teach my child the way that
How are you going to teach? Wait, is your child a man?
doesn't matter.
Well, yeah, because if you do so, your Bible wouldn't allow you to teach or assume authority over a man.
Hold on. Ephesians 6:4, fathers, do not exasperate your children, instead bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord. These commandments that I give you are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your
Fathers,
child.
do not provoke your children to anger. But Timothy says that I do not permit women to teach or assume authority over a man.
Proverbs 1:8-9, do not neglect your mother's instruction. What you learn from them will crown you with grace and be a chain of honor around your neck. Proverbs 22:6, train up your child
Proverbs
the way
is
they
in the
should
Old
go,
Testament. I thought
even
you
when
didn't
they
believe
are
in the Old
old, they will
Testament.
not turn from it.
Proverbs is in the Old Testament. I thought you didn't believe in the Old Testament.
What are you talking about?
You said, oh, I need to see if this is in the Old or New Testament because Christians don't follow Old Testament commandments.
Fine. First Timothy, motherhood is a gift from the Lord, and the way to glorify and serve him as a mother comforts her child, so I will comfort you.
Doesn't sound like teaching to me.
Listen, at the end of the day, you are going to believe what you believe. And when I was
believe that you
referring to
should
the
be
Old
quiet.
Testament versus the New Testament, it was talking about things such as clothing and
teaching and assuming authority. I mean, I don't see
not
how
necessarily. I mean, at
How
the
do
end of
you
the day,
justify the
every
Timothy
woman
verse?
has
I do not permit a woman to teach or assume authority over a man. How?
That's completely fine with you. At
But
the end of the
that's your
day,
belief. I don't believe in your mythos.
you
I think
don't
it's
have to.
horrible.
I believe in the Bible.
But so what?
I
How do
believe the
you
Bible
think
is
it's
the word of
acceptable to
God.
teach?
And when
How do you
I
think
said
it's
it
acceptable
depends
to
on
not
if
be
it's in
quiet
the Old
around
or the
me?
New Testament, it really depended upon what was going on in that situation. Because in the Old Testament, you shouldn't have mixed clothing types like cotton and or whatever other
This
clothing
is the
types
New
there are. You
Testament.
shouldn't have mixed them. That's what that refers like
This is the
certain.
New Testament.
Okay, and I'm referring to teaching children because in the Old Testament, yes, it does talk about teaching, and at the end
But
of
in
the
the New
day, every
Testament, it
woman that
bans you
has
from
a
doing so.
child, it's still going to continue on. We have to train up our children, and not have to, but children should be taught in a specific. Children should be trained up in a specific way. Train your child
But also,
the way they
the
should
men
go,
should
and
not
when
lie
they
with
are
men
old, they
verse
will
that
not
you
turn
quoted
from it
is
because
sorry. But the men should not lie with men verse that you quoted is also in the Old Testament.
Okay, so I guess no one's teaching my child. Got it.
You certainly aren't, especially not in the ways of Christianity. You don't
How
seem
is
to
that
know
not the
them.
ways of Christianity?
Because you don't
Because
know
I
your
tell
own
my
mythos.
child, because my child interacts with everyone no matter their whatever orientation they choose to decide,
I
whatever.
mean, you said
My
that being
child
gay
is
is bad to
still
a gay
in
man,
their
so I don't know if that's
lives,
the type of
yet
respect you
I
should be
don't.
teaching them.
Yet if my child were to come to me saying, "Hey, I'm a part of this community," I would at least take them to counseling. I'm not saying I wouldn't accept them. I'm just saying, hey, let's go talk to someone to see if there's an underlying issue or if this is really what's going on. So,
I mean, and historically, taking to such counseling has
I don't.
suicidality, anxiety, and depression. But once again, neither here nor there.
At the end of the day, I'm gonna raise my
At the end
child
of the
the
day
way
is what I
that
say
in
when I
the
don't know how to
Word of
argue.
God. So
And
I
I
hope
actually
you
don't
have a
know.
good night.
And I don't know how to respond to someone's argument. I say at the end of the day. But guys, look, she's gonna be finally meek and quiet. Crazy times. Bye. If you can figure out how to exit, I don't know if you can. I'll sit and watch. I always like doing this. Oh yay! Meek and quiet. Okay. Lol. I'm gonna go to bed. I'm gonna go sleep. I'm gonna go to sleep. I'm gonna go to sleep. Because I have roommates and I need to be respectful. But, I love you all. I am back in America. But if you want to follow me, go click my Instagram. I'm gonna be going live on Instagram at some point. Click my Instagram. I have like beautiful little stuff. All my globes are back on Instagram. They're coming. All right. Love you. Bye bye. Follow my Patreon if you want more.